Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you about quality and about quantity. So if you've been in the creative space for a while, or even not just in the creative space, just in general, you've heard the phrase quality over quantity, right? And what do people mean by that? Well, they mean they would rather you make a good thing than make lots of things, right? And in a vacuum, yeah, it is better to make a good thing than to make lots of things. However, where I feel like the saying falls down is in the fact that you can make a lot of good things. You don't necessarily need quantity or quality, right? You can have both. And it's just about finding the formula that works for you. So they did this experiment some point in the past where they got two groups together, right? They had what were called the quality group and the quantity group, and both of these groups had to make these paper mache eggs, right? And they had an hour to do it, and the quality group had to make one egg in that hour and just basically like really make sure it's the perfect egg. And the quantity group had to make as many eggs as possible, right? So what happens is the hour passes, the quality group has this one egg, and the quantity group has like 50 eggs, right? Now, these eggs are then judged in terms of a few different factors, like how smooth the paper mache is the shape, you know, an egg shape, is it the right egg shape, is it the right size, is the color from the various paper mache, is that smooth, is there any glue hanging off it, that kind of thing, right? And you lose points depending on like imperfections and stuff, and there's a final score at the end for your egg, right? So the quality group had a pretty decent egg. It was all right, it was above average for sure. However, the quantity group, this is where it gets interesting. They had an awful lot of crap eggs, as you might expect. However, they had more than one egg. In fact, they had about 10, 15 eggs that were actually better than that one egg the quality group was making, that got a higher score, that fit the brief of like what this paper mache egg should be, because they got into a flow state with it and they were just doing egg after egg after egg after egg. It's the same way, you know, in the 70s or the 60s, you might have your favorite band or artist. Like, I really like Pink Floyd, right? And I feel like they got into a right creative streak beginning in 1969 when they did More and they did Amagama, and then they went and did Atom Heart Mother, which led into Metal, which led into Obscured by Clouds, which led to the magnum opus of Dark Side of the Moon. That was the thing that made them mega famous, right? And then that started a whole new phase of their career. But in that time, they were just making stuff, making an album every year, sometimes 2 albums a year, just getting into that flow state and just doing it, right? And because they just did that, and rather than worrying about the end result so much, they ended up making some of the best music of their career in that time. I mean, they made Echoes in that time. They made Fat Old Sun in that time. They made Source Full of Secrets in that time. They made, Pillow of Winds and Fearless and all kind like Summer '68 and so many great songs that are some of their best songs that they ever made, right? And they did it very quickly and without perfecting everything too much, which started to paralyze them later on down the line. And they started actually making worse things whilst they had a higher threshold for quality. Like the Final Cut, for instance, they had a very high threshold for quality with that. And yet the album isn't as good as albums that came before. I still like the Final Cut, by the way. I actually like it more than The Wall. It's got some amazing songs on it, but that's kind of getting away from my point, which is that if you can get into that flow state and find a way of creating quality via quantity, you will be in a much better position than if you just try to strive for quality and if you drive for perfectionism, if you drive for just getting this one thing down perfect and nailed, because someone else will do it better just by shoddily running along doing the thing that they do, running through their motions, right? They will be able to achieve something that's better. Like I've got a friend, right, who's got a YouTube channel. I don't think he wants me to talk about because he's unlisted basically all the videos, right? But he got into a big flow state with it. He got to a point where he did a month where he released a video every 2 days, right? And he got so into this flow state. And he made some crap videos in that time, but he made some really good videos in that time. And he made a couple videos that actually sprung a few long-running series that we started to do that were things that would net him like 10, 50, 100,000 views. And these were things that we really enjoyed doing, that were creatively fulfilling, you know, and they were good. They were some of his best videos. And it's really interesting to see how if you can just get into that flow state, and if you can just start doing stuff rather than worrying about it, how you can make such better quality material. Take Joel Haver, for instance, one of my inspirations at the moment. He's doing this 12 features project right now, right? And he's getting into that flow state, and he's making some of the best films of his career, you know? Because he's gotten into that state of just doing one film, then the next, and the next, and the next. And like, you know, sure, I don't love some films as much as others, but overall, I feel like he's made some of the best films of his career in this year with this 12 features project. And I think that like that, and like with the Pink Floyd example, and like with the paper mache eggs, what you can learn from this idea of quantity over quality rather than quality over quantity is that quantity doesn't necessarily negate quality. You can have quantity and quality. It is possible. And all you need to do is find the formula that works for you. Find that flow state. Find the thing that inspires you and makes you really drive to get this thing done, to achieve this goal. And if you can get into that flow state, then you can do things beyond your wildest dreams. And it is kind of like having a superpower, in all honesty, as cliche and cheesy and like managerial pep talk as that might sound. It really is true. If you can get into a flow state, you unlock your own inner bloody brain power, right? And you can actually go out there and do so much with it. Like, for instance, doing these 2 videos a day, I don't have any videos backlogged, right? So I'm just uploading them twice a day. And it's a lot of content to do a day. I've never done videos this frequently before. And I find that these videos are quite nice to watch. They're just as good as the videos that I would spend a month working on, right? But I can make 60 times as many of them, right? So which is really better there? Is it the 10 minutes of funny material, or is it the 600 minutes of equally funny material? What is better? Is it to put effort into something, or is it to get good results, you know? I don't know the answer to that. Well, I have an opinion on the answer, but I feel like you probably have a different opinion. You might see the world differently. You might come at this from a different angle. And if so, I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments, and we can have a back and forth. And I'd like to do a follow-up video on this, particularly if we have some kind of disagreement, because it is certainly a distinct approach to creativity. And it can also be construed as like, this is the lazy way of just pumping shit out, you know? And I can understand that. And you don't want to fall victim to that. And that, a lot of that comes from commodification of your art and commercialization and sort of selling out and just getting, you know, uninspired by it and just running through the motions. You don't need to run through the motions just because you're making a lot of stuff. In fact, it gives you more opportunity to experiment and try weird things, you know? And from a happy accident comes future endeavors. Like with my friend's YouTube channel, for example, we did a video that was totally different from the thing he normally sort of does. And then it turned out that was quite fun. We enjoyed the video and it came out well and people liked it. So we were like, oh, we'll make some more of them. So we made like 15 more of them and then people really liked them. So that is a good example. Trying new things will lead you down interesting avenues. And I think if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, it's that you can get something good done. You could get something good out now. Stop this video and just go make something right now and upload it to YouTube. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Just try it. See what happens. Take that risk. Do that thing. Jump into the abyss and see where it takes you. See what's on the other side. So yeah, that's going to be all from me. Thank you so much for watching this. Love you all. Doing day 2 of filming today for Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. Lee is who's playing the role of Mickey Doherty. He's driving down at the moment. So once he gets here, we're going to start filming. So, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to do this, and I really can't wait to show you it all. I'm going to try and get it edited for tomorrow, and I'll probably have a video out about it on Sunday. And then next week, we're doing 3 days of filming. We're doing, Monday, we're doing some of the office stuff. Then on Wednesday, John Henry, who plays the role of Leo Mickens, he came to me and was like, I should play this blind busker. I've got these cataract glasses. And I was like, I love it. I love it. I love the ideas. And it gave me an idea. So we're going to do that on Wednesday in Kingston. And then on Friday, I'm looking forward to this one the most personally, because we're going to have so much fun with it. And I get to play music through it. I'm going to be replaying the original gig from the film to make it into like this dreamlike sort of sequence to show his delusions of grandeur, because Jonny Mozza plays gigs, open mics, as if he's playing fucking Glastonbury or something like that, you know. And I think that's so much fun. Or like an amphitheater, you know, or like an arena with like 200,000 people watching, like Queen Live Aid or something like that. That's how he treats it. Yeah. So I'm really excited for all this, and I can't wait to keep you updated on everything that's going on. I can't wait to show you this film when it comes out, because it is an example of quantity over quality, and I really want to you know, to show it to you all and see where that opportunity takes us down the line. So yeah, that's my piece for today. Thank you so much for watching this. Love you all. Take care. Go out and fucking make something, and then post it in the comments. I feel like I'm doing like some kind of infomercial. Yes. Do you want to buy this leaf? Yes. I don't know what accent that is. Do you want to buy this leaf? Yeah. This is a very nice, ornate, teal and yellow, you know, aged 30-year leaf. Came from a very nice oak tree. As you can see, it's a very large leaf. That's a double XL size leaf, perfectly fitting for the larger individual. Yes, as you can see, it covers an awful lot of the body. Yes, so I think the bidding will start at $50,000. Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about equipment, particularly in regards to filmmaking in general. If you're part of the filmmaking community, you'll know firsthand that there's a lot of things to buy. There's a lot of things out there that you can acquire that will make your set better, that will make your film look better in this way, that will make it sound better, that will be useful in this way, or whatever. There's so many little tools. There's, you know, if you look at an Arri Alexa, for instance, the amount of little gizmos and gadgets you can add to an Arri Alexa, or any of these cameras really, if you get a small rig kind of thing that goes around it, there's so much that you can actually add to what a camera actually is. I mean, you can get like, you know, outside sort of focus pullers, and then get a focus puller to actually do that. So you can that can be useful if you've got some very intricate kind of maneuvering shots. Say if I went right up like that, and then way back like that, and then way back like this, like in this shot, I'm going in and out of focus. But say if I didn't want to come in and out of focus, well, I would get one of these, I can't remember what they're called, tentacle somethings. Oh, those are for time code. You can sort time code out. You can spend hundreds of bloody pounds on time code stuff. And then there's sound equipment. There's so many things you can get with regards to that. You know, you got the microphones, you got this, you got that. I mean, there's so much that actually goes into it. And at the end of the day, it's what's more important is telling your story rather than how you tell your story. It's more important what you do with the tools you have, because that shows that you are capable of being able to make something that is properly interesting once you get the material resources to be able to make, say, the thing you always wanted to make, but you just never had the, you know, the right thing, or the right amount of resources, the right equipment, etc., right? So what am I using for this sort of setup here? Because I'm not going to toot my own trumpet, but I think this is a pretty decent looking shot, right? So first off, I've got one light over there, right? That's, I don't know if you can see the shadow. That's a Neewer, it's newer, but with two E's. Some light, cheapest one that they had. It came as a pack of two. The other one is over here. It's backlighting me, and this one's kind of fill lighting me. And those two cost about £150 total. So I proper splashed out for them. And then I got this. This was £9. I actually got two of them, but I'm only using one at the moment. I like it because it just adds a little bit of a splash of colour, just adds like some little, ooh, look at what's going on over here, ooh, look at what's going on over here, you know? And also behind me, there's so many more little lights that are going around. It's so much fun, I like these. £9, I think they were, off Amazon. What brand? Doesn't say, completely unbranded. Buy one of these. If you get an Amazon affiliate link or something, you could buy one of those. Let me think. What else is there in general? I keep for the Neewer lights. They're just attached to the mains at the moment, but you get these, which are MPF batteries. You want to get the larger sort of ones because these will last you quite a long time. These can cost you about, I can't remember, about £50. I think I paid £50 for 4 of them. something like that, and I keep them in this old Game Boy kind of case. So that can be quite useful. I'm just trying to think what else. You know, I think the main cost actually, do you know what it is? It's these. It's external hard drives, because something that you really shouldn't be skimping out on is backing your shit up. Because I'll tell you what, if you ever lost something, I once lost all the sound for one of my films. I was in bits. Because it was all my fault. It was entirely my fault and my issue. And yeah, that was a problem. So now I'm very, very, very big on backing things up. The rule is you have 2 on-site and you have 1 off-site. So I need to get a copy of Jonny Mozza over to my co-director and producer so they can hold on to one while I hold on to the other 2, and potentially even more. I want to get maybe 5 of these at some point. What else is there? The Canon C100, which is what I'm filming this on, it takes these, which are weird expensive batteries that they were about £50 each, but I got them on the bids. So this is a Canon C100, what this is being filmed on at the moment. It was £600 on the eBay bids. So it's a camera from about 2012, which means it's old enough that no one wants it anymore. It's not got 4K, it's not got, I think it's 8-bit and not 10-bit, it's stuff like this, which to me, these aren't things that really bother me. And I'll tell you what, the amount of people that have complimented the shots on this camera is really like blown me away. And thank you so much to everyone that's said that they like the camera, because I really love this little thing. It's huge actually. It's bigger than my head. It's such a fun camera. It makes everything feel kind of 70s-ish or 80s, and it doesn't have to do that. You can make it. It was designed, I feel like, it's got a super 35mm lens in it. I feel like when I look at the stuff from it, I see like a Channel 4 documentary reality TV show from about 2009, or something that would have aired on BBC Two at about 11 p.m. That's kind of what I see when I see this camera, and to me that's just such a cool look. I love that kind of thing. I love that sort of softish, sort of matte, not particularly sharp. This isn't a particularly sharp camera. It's not particularly like a Sony or something like that. And also what's good about this camera is the noise, the gain, when you turn the ISO up, is actually quite nice. It's fairly analog feeling, authentic, naturalistic kind of grain, compared to, I had a Sony A7 something for a brief like month or 2, and I didn't really like it because you get into the low light. Sure, it can perform well in low light, but if you are forced to resort to having grain, the grain is really digital, really harsh and quite nasty, and you can't get rid of it or anything like that. You've got to deal with it. I liked the color science of the Sony, but anyway, in terms of the equipment, I'm saying that you don't need nearly as much as you think. I don't have particularly much, and I'm making something that looks fairly decent looking. You can make something that looks really cool on the phone. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you can record video and have the lav mic coming out of it. Oh yeah, the lav mic. Lav mic was £50. They are Rode Smart Lav Plus things. They're quite nice. I like them a lot. Basically what they do, they hook up into the phone. There's something called TRRS, which means that they have 3 little black lines on the jack, which apparently is what phones use. But if you want to plug it into something like, say, a Tascam, or like something like this, which is a Zoom H1, this is kind of an audio sort of recorder thing. This is what I used to use when I was working with actors and stuff. They would wear these and the lav mic would come out of it. Now you need, this is TRS instead of TRRS. And so if you wanted to plug this into this, you would have to get a little extension converter thing, which I bought. That was like a 15 quid. So there's going to be little things like that, which are small expenses that are going to kind of constantly come your way. You're always going to need to get that little extra thing, and that's kind of part of parcel with like what happens with regards to making film. But sometimes you come up with your own solutions. Like this is a battery case. This isn't a battery case. It's just a piece of foam that I carved out the shape of a battery in, and I just keep the battery in it. It is actually quite decent, look. It jiggled a tiny bit, but if you're keeping it in a backpack, it's perfect. I think my favourite thing that I've got, so here's the stands for the newer lights. So these come with it, and they kind of sit down anywhere, and you can kind of sandbag them down. And when I say sandbag, you don't need to go out and buy sandbags. Just find some heavy shit, whatever heavy stuff is knocking around. Like, if you're in the woods, get like a heavy branch and just chuck it on there. If you're in someone's house, take like, I don't know, something that they've got that's fairly heavy. There's all sorts of stuff. And then there's stuff you can make on your own. So this isn't something I can really use anymore. I need to sort it out. If you can see, it's got like electrical tape on it. This was a Chinese lantern kind of light. So what it does, it's got a lamp on one side, and then it's got a plug on the other, and then it's got a switch in the middle. So all I did is I bought the switch and the light socket, and then I got a load of old cable that was sat in the garden that had been sat there for years. And I basically just cut it up into 2 pieces, and then I sort of smoothed it out, hooked one side into this, hooked the other side into the other side, hooked that side into this, and hooked the other side into the plug. And yeah, it worked really well. What you do, all of this cable, the reason the cable's so long, you plug it into one side and then you hang it off like, imagine this was a painter's pole. I've got a painter's pole over there, but I'm not going to get up. So you would hold it kind of like you hold a boom mic, and at the end of this, a light would dangle down. So imagine it kind of like this. This is kind of the thing that it does, if that makes sense. So it's really good, this. And in total, I think I paid about £10 for everything. So this was like, this little light bulb thing was about £2. The plug was just a plug off some random fucking thing that didn't matter. And then the switch, I think the switch was like £1.50 from Wix, something like that. And then Chinese lanterns, I got 2 Chinese lanterns, probably about £6. And then I bought a light bulb that, I don't even think I bought a light bulb. I think I just used the light bulb that's in the light up there and just used that. So yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can do so much. You can have so much fun with making little bits of equipment yourself. You don't necessarily need to go and buy the big expensive sort of things. And there's always a cheaper workaround. And also you can find stuff like that turns out to be quite useful. I found a mixing desk that's just over there, but I'm not going to go pick it up because it's awkward. And then there's other times like where you'll see something that is quite cheap, but it's also quite universal, like these. So these headphones, right, that I'm wearing now, if you go on any kind of live thing, sorry, that was my sunglasses falling on the floor. If you go on any live like music thing or something to do with DJs or whatever, or sound boom artists, they all have these kind of Sony headphones. They are MDR 7506. I got these for about £75. I think they're about £80 now. And they are incredible. They don't have any additional kind of bass or treble or any additional EQ or compression that's kind of added on after the fact. It is just the pure, raw sound, which it's great for making stuff. It's not so great for casual listening, I will admit. It made music, because I just used them for everything for like a few years, and I realized that I was starting to not enjoy music particularly because I just heard all the music basically in like raw. Like imagine you watched every film but took the color grade away. That's basically how I was listening to music for about 4 years. So yeah, you can get so much sort of equipment. Sometimes things can be annoying, like the batteries for the Canon 6D, which is my B camera, are different than the ones for the Canon C100. I'm not sure why. I mean, if they're both Canon, why can't they both be powered the same way? I'm sure there's some reason, but I don't know it. Yeah, and then the newer things come in these sort of cases. You can carry these around. You can just kind of dangle them like that. They're pretty good. And then lenses. This lens was a 28mm lens. This was gifted to me by my good friend Jeffro, who, thank you so much for this. This lens might possibly be the reason I've started this channel, because I was able to just go out and get so many shots that I never thought I could get, because I only had a 50mm before this, and I also had, it's attached to my Canon 6D. This is a Canon 70mm to 210mm, so it kind of does that, and because I wanted a long lens, because I like getting what I call the Leon the Professional shot, which is basically you zoom it in all the way, but you put the camera so far away from the actors that it becomes a wide shot. And it makes things kind of look like a painting. I really like that look. Can be annoying in the wind though, because the slightest jiggle really messes it up. So it was so good to actually get a wide lens, finally, to actually have a wide lens. So thank you so much, Jeffro. Please check out the channel Retro Gem Media. He does all sorts of really fun videos on various forms of media. He's been recently doing stuff with Thunderbirds and the film franchise Nemesis. But he, sorry, he talks about really all sorts of things, and he's just really nice person, really lovely to talk to, really intelligent as well, and yeah, there's so many other little things that I'm trying to think of. This, oh, bollocks. This is a Zoom H4n. This is what I was using for sound before I got the lav mics, and I just fell in love with the lav mics. So this was about £145 on eBay. They're not always £145, by the way. So if it looks like it's more expensive, just wait a little bit. Eventually someone will sell it for less than it's worth, and just hop on that quick, yeah? So the way that I see it, none of this stuff is particularly like new, recent, or high-end. It might seem like I've got a lot if you're watching this and you are literally just working with a phone or like or whatever, you know. It might seem like I've got a lot if I've got this and I've got that and I've got this and I've got these and like all this sort of stuff. So I can understand if this seems kind of intimidating, but bear in mind that from my point of view, there are people out there that have entire trucks and vans full of gaffer equipment. And is the stuff that they make worth what must be like £1 million more than mine? Because everything that I've got here probably is in the realm of about £3 grand. That's absolutely everything. And I didn't buy everything. Some stuff got given to me. Some stuff I just straight up found. Some stuff I got way cheaper than it really had any right being. You know, stuff like that. So, you know, the more you'll slowly come to acquire equipment throughout your journey, and that's fine. It's fine to take it at your own pace and go with the flow and make stuff, keep making stuff. Once you start to feel limited by, say, this, that's when you should start seeking out this. But don't just seek out this straight away because it's the latest and greatest thing, which it's not, by the way. You know, work within your limitations. See what you can do with the few resources that you have now, rather than do nothing and save up for getting the resources so that you can finally begin. That's the overall message that I'm trying to get across. And also the message that I like to try and get across is don't necessarily bother with all the brand stuff. You don't need to get branded stuff. This is completely unbranded. Newer lights are, like, I think they've gotten a foothold, but when I got them, they were basically like Chinese crap on Amazon. You know, like Zoom H1, not particularly great. Apparently the Zoom H4n has some noise floor issues. Don't go down the whole rabbit hole of like, ooh, is this, what's this one compared to this one? Googling Zoom H4n versus Tascam DR40. Oh, this one has a noise floor of 93. This one has a LUFS of something -9 or whatever, you know. It doesn't matter. Okay, what matters, because you see these in films all the time. You see these being used in interviews. You see these used everywhere on podcasts and all sorts of stuff by people who are successful already. So this is good. This is good enough, and you don't need to worry. Okay, you don't need to sit around and save up for like a Zoom H8 fucking F4 bloody £5,000 mixing desk / audio recorder. You don't need it. Okay, you can use whatever you have, and once you start to feel limited by that, that's when you can move on. Once you feel like you have a reason to get something, that's a good option to actually go down that route. Everything that I've gotten here, I acquired because I had a need and I needed it to be filled. It wasn't that I just got things because, you know, this one is a bit better than this one. Like, I'm not going to get a new camera anytime soon because this camera is amazing. And if I was going to get a new camera, it would have to do something that I would need. Like, for instance, this camera can't do slow motion. So if I needed slow motion, maybe I'd rent out something for like that day, or maybe I would get like a new camera. Maybe I would get like the Canon C200 Mark II, which I think can do 120 frames per second. Possibly. Okay, but because it's always nice to dream of having nicer equipment and the things you might do with it, but then you get it and you don't actually do any of those things. You know, once you achieve your dreams, you realize that your dreams aren't nearly as dreamlike as you might originally anticipate. So, yeah, don't worry about things like this. It's all fine. It's all good. We're all trying our best at the end of the day, and as long as you are as well, then, you know, you're part of the club. That's I feel like that's about everything that I need to. Oh, this camera, by the way, I'll show you right at the end, but it's actually just on a stack of DVDs. It's not on like anything in particular. It's not on like a tripod or anything like that. I've actually fucked my tripod. I do have a tripod, which is here. It's tangled with everything now. So enjoy listening to all the sounds of crashing off screen. So yeah, the tripod works perfectly, but the base plate on this is a bit threaded. So yeah, I got a new base plate, which was 20 quid. So yeah, you're gonna have those little things where you get little annoying, annoying sort of little fees. Basically, it's basically a fee to continue existing. It's kind of like, you know, it's the hobby version of getting bills and paying your bills. Basically, you know, you don't have a choice. You just have to. That's kind of whatever. Yeah. I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you all so much for watching this. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I hope that life takes care of you. And yeah, you can get stuff like this for 9 quid. You can get stuff like this. You don't need to get like £1,000 headphone. These £80 ones are top of the range, and I don't care what anyone says. You can get like this 5 terabyte hard drive was about 100 quid. I know that generally a bit more expensive, but if you wait for the right times of the year, like I think we're coming up on the right time of the year. I mean, we've got Black Friday and stuff coming up. And yeah, the more you go out and socialize and interact with people, you might like acquire some cool stuff like this, which, you know, he didn't need it anymore. So he gave it to me because he already has a set of Samyang lenses, which are, they are to die for. They are really nice. And it is cool being able to do, instead of having to do the f-stop thing that I have to do, which is a bit like stiff feeling, he can just, so you can kind of do it whilst you're filming. That's quite cool. And this I got off a friend John Henry Westhead, Zoom H1 recorder. I don't think he actually gave it to me. I think I borrowed it for a bit, but he never really needed it. And then I think I gave it him back, and then I just ended up with it again. So if you want it back, by the way, you'll take it. But I've just held on to it essentially. Yeah, there's loads more things, like, you know, you got to get sellotape, and you got to get like charging ports, and you got to get all these sort of things. Sometimes you might need, you know, one of these. Sometimes you need some gaffer tape. Sometimes you might need, you know, bottles of water for your crew. You know, get some. I remember on one set I did, I could get 72 chocolate bars for £5 on Amazon. And it was all like, you know, proper like nice Cadbury's chocolates and stuff, but it was all like done through some weird dodgy thing. So. But I only realised that after the fact. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, £5 for 72 chocolates." The only con to it was they were a bit like old. They were, you know, when chocolate goes a little bit white towards the end. It was kind of like that. Yeah, and then, you know, just for the rest of everything, like my computer at the moment is on the brink, so I'm gonna basically salvage some of the parts. I've been going on PC Part Picker, and I basically made a new build, which, because for editing you don't need a lot of GPU intensive sort of stuff, so it's not a GPU intensive thing, so you don't need a particularly great GPU. So my GPU is about 10 years old, graphics card by the way. My graphics card is about 10 years old. I've got a Ryzen 3700X, which I'm going to put in this, and I'm going to get a new motherboard. So I'm going to get a new motherboard, and I'm going to get new RAM. Because, yeah, my RAM stick kind of died, which is a bit annoying actually. Because now it's a pain in the ass editing this film a little bit. It's just slower than it was. So I have managed to get the computer working again, so that kind of worked out. But I do feel like it's a bit terminal. So getting a new computer is actually only going to cost me about 300 quid, which I'm pretty happy about, because I was really worried I was going to have to like let go of £1,000 for that or more. So that's kind of worked out, because yeah. Because I'm not a particularly like rich person or anything like that. I'm not moneyed. The only reason I'm able to do these videos is because I managed to save up just enough to survive for like 2-3 months, and then if it didn't work out, I'd have to stop uploading so regularly. But it seems to be working really fucking well actually. So there's a chance I might be able to do this forever, which that'd be fun. Yeah. Hope you don't get sick of me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Have a good rest of the day. Love you all. Let me know what kind of equipment you have and how you use it, what limitations you feel come with your equipment, and the practical applications of it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
This is what the light looks like, by the way. It looks like that. I'll turn it around so you can kind of see. So it's got one of these sort of things on it. Yeah, they get a bit stiff, but that's because you've probably got them connected in the wrong way. And then there's this flick. It flicks that way if it's on batteries. It flicks that way if it's on this AC thing. So yeah. Oh yeah, let me turn it on because like the end credits of the other suggested videos thing.
Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a weird sort of thing that happened with one of my videos recently. I made a video called Don't Watch This Video, Create Something Instead. And the way that began was, the idea was you click the video and then the first thing I say was, right, so you click the video, so you failed the first step. And so I filmed that video about 5 days ago, right? And I was going to put that in my backlog, so that was going to come out, you know, maybe 3 or 4 days after that. Okay. Then a couple days later, a guy called Dan Lotz, who runs the channel 922 Films, or maybe it's called $5 Film School. It's called one of those two things. I think it's called 922 Films. He made a video called "Don't Click." Sorry, what was it called? Indie filmmakers, don't click this video. And I saw that thumbnail, and a little bit of my heart kind of sank, because I kind of thought, oh my God. No, because if I click this video and he starts it off by saying, right, so you clicked the video, so you failed the first step, I'm gonna be, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I clicked the video, a little bit of dread in me, and I clicked the video, and what does he say?
Okay, you clicked the video. Now you wanna hear what I have to say. I wanna talk about what I would consider to be the dirty word in filmmaking.
So you clicked the video, so you failed the first step. Turn the video off and go actually create something. So yeah, he did the exact same video as me, and now I'm stuck with this video that now is technically ripping him off, even though I had no idea about this video at the time of making it, because that video didn't exist unless he had it in his backlog somewhere, and he maybe filmed it a couple of weeks ago or something like that. But anyway, I had no knowledge of this video. I don't necessarily follow Dan Lotz particularly. I don't follow the things that he's done. I've watched Chlorine, I watched a little bit of Sheep Theatre, and I watched a little bit of 6 Days Alone? Yeah, I watched a couple of them. Nothing really super stuck with me, so I never ended up really keeping up and following him the same way I might do with, say, Joel Haver or Doom Productions and stuff like that. But, you know, I respect him and respect what he's doing and his craft and so on and so forth. He did the 12 Features project, where he makes 12 feature films in 12 months, and, you know, that's an amazing feat to be able to do that, and, you know, I really look up to him even on that basis. But then Chlorine is a really good film. Really amazing cinematography on it as well. And yeah, so I made that video and I just kind of thought, oh no. Well, now what do I do? So at first what I did, I set the video to come out like a month from now. That was my original idea. I thought, right, well, maybe if I get some distance from the Dan Lotz video, that will make this video seem a little bit less like a rip-off. But then, I don't know, a couple days later, I kind of thought, well, hang on, that's not gonna work, because Dan Lotz's video is out. It's here to stay, it's permanent, it's on the internet, it's done, okay? The damage is done. I am now technically ripping him off, no matter if I upload the video today or I upload it 2 years from now. So I thought that, and I thought, okay, well, I might as well upload the video then. So I uploaded the video, and I just set it to go, because I thought I don't want to wait. I'd rather just you know, take the blow and just get on with life. And then I kind of thought, well, hang on. It reminds me of films in a certain way. You know, there's that phenomenon of 2 films coming out at the same time from different studios that are about basically the same thing. The first thing that comes to mind is Deep Impact and Armageddon, or similarly White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen. Those are 2 very good examples. White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen are 2 films about the White House being seized by terrorists and bad people, and about how some guy, the bodyguard of the president, has to come and try and save the day. But at the same time, they do take different approaches. Like White House Down is a lot more of a fun romp where the president gets a minigun and shoots out the back of a Jeep, Whereas Olympus Has Fallen is trying to be a bit more of like a down-to-earth, gritty, semi-realistic thriller. And obviously it's not full-on realistic thriller, but it's certainly, compared to White House Down, it's the more down-to-earth of the two. So I kind of thought, well, hang on. Mine and Dan Lotz's videos are different inherently, particularly in the way they're filmed. Mine was filmed basically the same way that these are filmed, and Dan Lotz's one was kind of like him walking around on the phone like that. So there was two different styles straight away there. It's not like we did the exact same thing, and it's also not like we made the exact same points in general with our videos. I mean, mine was a very vague, general, just motivational sort of thing, whereas his was a bit more of like a, I don't know, in-depth look at like the idea of creativity and what it means to be creative and like get stuff done, and the impulsiveness that kind of comes with it. I've only seen it once when I actually first clicked it, so sorry if I've kind of messed up the interpretation of it. So go watch the video so you can get your own idea. Actually, watch both of the videos. I'll link both of the videos in the description so you can kind of get an idea, compare and contrast what we did differently. Because I just find it really weird that two people on two separate continents, that although they're part of the same general space, on two separate continents, made the exact same video on the exact same topic at the exact same time. I just find that really weird, really interesting. And I had to make a video about this just because I'm not someone that just takes other people's ideas and rips them off. Like, if I did that, I would make a worse video than if I just tried to make a video based off my own ideas. You know, like I don't know any covers. I play guitar, but I don't know any covers. I can only play my original songs. I'm not very good at that whole taking other people's art and doing it my own way sort of thing. I'm just not that kind of person. That's not my specialty. So it kind of frustrated me that like my idea had been done by someone else, but obviously that's not his fault. It's not anything to do with him. He just made a video and did it. And then I'm looking at it like, no, that was my idea. Oh, what am I gonna do? Do you know what's really annoying? My video was gonna come out the same day as his. It was gonna come out that same day, but it was scheduled to come out at like 6, and his came out at like, I don't know, 7 in the morning. Mine was gonna come out at like 6 in the evening. And sometimes I schedule videos to come out at 7 in the morning. So imagine if I had done it to the exact same hour that Dan Lotz's video came out, and the two videos on the exact same topic came out at the exact same time. That'd be really fun. But yeah, I just thought it was a really weird coincidence. It was a really like interesting little just thing that kind of happened that I wanted to make a video about. So here's the video about it. It's a little bit of a ramble, I know, but yeah, thank you very much for watching this one. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Take care, love you all, and sorry Dan Lotz for stealing your idea, I suppose, because you beat me to the punch. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Have a great rest of the day. Au revoir. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about HD, high definition video, and how it's not necessarily the be all and end all for all forms of cinema, video, media, etc. So in the past, when I was growing up, we watched everything on a VHS, and a VHS plays everything back in this really quite low quality. I think it's 240p or maybe 360p or something like that. It's not the super high mega HD, right? And then you got DVD, and I think DVD was 480p, and then you got Blu-rays, which I think started off as 720p and then gradually became 1080p, and 1080p is kind of the default that we have today. If you're watching this video, you're probably watching it on 1080p, unless you're on like mobile data or something. You probably set it to a bit lower like I do. I tend to set all YouTube videos to 144p if I'm watching it on mobile, because like it's on a tiny screen anyway. I'm not really missing much, in my opinion. I'm not missing, you know, seeing the little like blemishes here. I don't see the texture on this if it's set to 144p. This is just a grey strip, and this is just a grey slab, and I'm just an array of pixels. And that's okay, because the reason that you're watching this isn't for the highest fidelity of the visuals, to see all of this, to see every one of those little bricks in that thing behind me. You're not here to watch that. You're here to listen to the things that I'm trying to say, and you don't need super high fidelity video to accomplish that. Where HD is useful is in something like a nature documentary, for instance. You don't really want to be watching a nature documentary in 144p or 360p or something like that. And when HD came around, it was really beneficial for documentaries in general, because with that you're trying to capture reality as it is, and when you want to do that, HD is really beneficial because it's the closest to what our eyes actually see. Our eyes apparently see in something like 8K. I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, but we can see in that kind of quality. So once we get to 8K, when we've got 1080p as being the standard now, once we get to 8K being the standard, there is no further we can really go in terms of what our eyes can actually process. We're not going to be able to get anything much better than this. It's the same way our eyes see in something like 150-ish frames a second. Again, these numbers aren't correct. I'm not saying that these are the stats and these are the figures and this is exactly the way it is. But the point I'm making is that our perception of the world is something that technology is quite rapidly catching up to, and at some point in the next 20 years it's going to surpass what our own eyes and our ears can actually perceive. Now, what's going to happen when we reach that point? I can't say for exactly, in any capacity, but I do think that as HD has started to really take over, and now 4K is kind of coming out, you notice how 4K has been around now for over 10 years, and it hasn't taken nearly the same foothold in our media landscape as HD has. Why is that? Well, 4K for a start is an extremely large file size. It's quite a hassle to edit with, and it's a hassle to shoot because it fills up your SD cards quite quickly, and it's generally a bit cumbersome to actually work with, and then to view as well. You need to have quite high internet if you want to stream it, or you need to have a 4K telly, and you need to have 4K this, and you need to have a Ultra HD Blu-ray player and all this sort of stuff. And even if technology gets to the point where 4K is just as easy to use as HD is to us today, I don't think it's going to take the same foothold in the media landscape, because with 4K, what can you see that HD can't show you? Well, you can see the texture on things a little bit more cleanly, right? And you can see the texture on people's faces a lot more cleanly. Now, what happens when you've got a Hollywood movie where you've got loads of actors who are all very, image conscious, and they've got, blemishes, they might have a spot or a pimple or some cracked skin or some signs of aging and wrinkles and stuff like that. When you can, zoom into their face, you're seeing all their imperfections, and they don't want you to see those imperfections. In fact, I imagine a lot of actors are very displeased with the idea of being shown in, say, 4K or 8K. And some probably don't even massively like HD, but they've kind of gotten over it, and now they're just like, okay, fine, it'll be in HD, but not 4K, yeah? And then at some point they'll probably be okay with 4K, but not 8K. But once we get to 8K, that is what our human eyes can see. What are we going to do after that point? Are we going to do laser surgery on our eyes to make it so that we can see in 16K? Then what happens when we get to 16K for video, and that's the standard? What are we going to do? How high definition do we really need to go? Where 4K is useful is for if you want to sort of hone in on a specific thing. If you want to zoom in post and you want to work with the footage in post. I don't have a 4K camera, but if it was a 4K camera, I could just sort of zoom in. I could go up to 200 scale. This, at the moment, you're seeing this is 100 scale. So 200 scale would be taking a 4K video and making it 2K, which 2K is basically 1080p. It's a tiny bit better than 1080p. It's not exactly the same, but it's more or less the same. And it's splitting hairs really at that point. And when you get 8K, it can be quite useful because you can sort of digitally zoom into something that's really small, and you don't lose any fidelity when you're presenting it in HD 1080p. So that is a real advantage of 4K, of 8K, and once we start getting to 16K cameras coming out, or 32, 64K cameras far into the future, that's where it'll be useful, because you'll be able to do like the Blade Runner zoom and enhance thing. And you'll be able to properly actually get into like seeing someone's face and identify their face in like the reflection of a puddle of water on the ground, and you'll be able to actually see them very clearly and make out who they are. And that would be kind of cool. And that's a decent thing to have, But I think when you're chasing these high definitions, it's getting to a point where we're losing the point of having this technology, because what's the point of having the technology if we've got no real use for it? Now, horror movies are something that I'm not a massive horror guy, but whenever I've watched a horror movie, I've enjoyed myself, and I find that if you try and watch a horror movie in HD, it kind of loses its edge, because everything about horror is about the fear of the unknown in general. It's about not seeing stuff rather than seeing stuff. So if you put, say, The Thing or Halloween into 4K, you're kind of losing something, because the graininess and the low fidelity of these works is what makes them so interesting and so fun to watch, because you don't see everything. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening in that little corner. You can't see the monster through the dark, because if you can, in that sort of high fidelity, you'll be able to make out that it's just a load of plastic tubing and some prop design, which the prop masters don't really want super high fidelity video either, because then it shows off their props, and visual effects artists don't want 4K and 8K and all this stuff, because it makes it much easier to actually tell the issues with the CGI. If you're seeing a CGI thing in 480p, all the imperfections with the CGI kind of get masked by the artifacting and the compression that comes with exporting that video in 480p. Now, we can keep doing this. We can keep improving our quality and getting things higher and higher and higher in terms of their fidelity, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we need to be doing this, and I feel like at a certain point in the future, it's going to be a lot more acceptable to just release a film in 240p or 480p, and having a definition to your film will become like having an aspect ratio to it. So in the past, your film was the aspect ratio that it was in, right? You didn't really choose an aspect ratio to it. If you were filming on 70mm, that was the aspect ratio it was going to be. If you were shooting on super 16mm, that was the aspect ratio you would get out of it. Is it in 4K? Well, that's because of the limitations via the technology and because of the medium that you actually want to put it on. You don't have an artistic reason to be showing something in 16:9 or 18:9 or 2.35 or 4:3 or whatever. But now you can make those decisions. And I think going forwards into the future, definition is going to join aspect ratio in being a creative decision for people to take on. If you're making a horror movie, you'll be able to just say, and you can do it now actually, if you're making a horror movie, you can make it in 360p or 480p and really try and hide the imperfections in, say, the props or the actors, and like get that sort of fear of the dark kind of quality going to it, and actually help use the definition to build the tension, because it's what you don't see that scares you, not what you do see. And then you could, if you're making a nature documentary, then yeah, 4K is brilliant for that sort of thing, because you want to be able to make out that monkey in as high fidelity as possible. You want to see every hair on that monkey's arm, because you're there to observe, and it's about what you do see in a nature documentary, which is completely the opposite of, say, a horror movie. If you're releasing a thriller movie, then it could depend on the nature of the thriller movie, to have it in HD or 720 or 4K or whatever, right? It could be kind of whatever you want it to be. Now, I don't know when this kind of adoption of video definition is really going to take off. I think first what needs to happen is we need to be more accepting of low quality video, and we already kind of are with, say, JPEG compression, and we upload a video that's a re-upload and a re-upload, etc, etc, etc. You've got memes, for instance, which are all extremely low resolution, and that's kind of it feeds into the charm of them. And you've got these internet videos that are filmed on webcams and stuff like that, but you don't mind, because it's about the content itself, not the quality of it. It's like, if you go to see the Mona Lisa, you're seeing the Mona Lisa from the other side of the room, behind loads and loads of people, behind a big pane of glass, but you still take away from the fact, it's like, fucking hell, I just saw the Mona Lisa, oh, that was amazing, I loved it, Whereas if and you didn't see it in the highest fidelity, but you can just go on Google Images, search the Mona Lisa, find the largest version of the image, and then zoom right in. You can see all the cracks in the paint, and you can see the little, details and all that. but you don't necessarily need to. It's not about the shading of the Mona Lisa's face. It's about the overall image and the context to why that image is so popular, and the artistic expression behind it and all that sort of stuff. It's not about the detail of that exact thing, you know? Like, the interesting thing about this video, for instance, is me talking, not the texture on this, or the texture on this, or the texture over there, or the texture on my face, right? And I'm not saying that this is like an interesting monologue, like, but that's the thing that you're here for. That's the thing that you're watching this for. You're not watching it for the high fidelity. But if this was a nature documentary, you would be watching it for the texture on this, and the texture on this, and the texture back there, because you'd be trying to take it all in, because you want to observe the world, which is the point of a documentary. Now, again, as I said, I don't know when this adoption is going to happen, but I do think it's going to happen in the next 15, 20 years max. And we're going to start seeing the odd movie that isn't, you know, maybe even in HD. Maybe there'll be a revival of, say, 480p or VHS or DVD kind of quality. And for me, in my opinion, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing, that we're going to start experimenting with the form in new and interesting ways, and taking what were before limitations and turning them into artistic expression. And I'm really excited to see what happens there. I mean, my film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, I'm using aspect ratio in kind of a fun way. I'm having some that are in 4:3, I'm having some that are in this, like, in between 4:3 and 16:9. Got a couple scenes that might be in 1:1, stuff like that. And, you know, some of the film is filmed on these little digicams, so you kind of get this really low quality, grainy, late 90s, early 2000s kind of look to it. And all this stuff, I think, helps feed into it. And that's the beauty of making things, of making art, is that you can try weird little experiments and see what works, see what doesn't, and just have a lot of fun with it. And that's what I think we should be doing going forwards. And I think that's going to be the case for definition in video. I think definition will become a tool for the creator, rather than a, you know, something on a brief where it's like, you need to make this in 4K, because I've had so many like clients in the past that talk about how they want 4K, but you kind of get the sense that they don't really understand why they want 4K. They just know they want 4K because they want to be able to say that their thing is in 4K, even if 4K doesn't benefit their content in the slightest. So, you know, you go and get a 4K camera just for that, and then you film it in 4K to appease them. And yeah, I don't think that we're going to continue chasing the most superior quality that we can get. And that's already happened, because if we were going to continue this trend of just improving technologically, we would have adopted 4K en masse by now. And I know that 4K is out there. I know that lots of films are released in 4K. I know there's lots of YouTube videos that are in 4K. And I know 4K is commonplace, but I don't think it's been adopted in the same way that HD has, and I don't think it ever will. I think it will become another thing that we can use. If you want to make a film in 4K, and it benefits from it being in 4K, then release it in 4K. But if it isn't benefited by the high fidelity video, then personally, I don't see the point in releasing it in 4K. And maybe it'll be better in 720p. Maybe it'll be better in 144p. Go on your little settings wheel, right, and set this to 144p. You can't see shit. You can't see any of this, you can't see any of this. My face is like probably 6 pixels, but I don't think any of that really matters, because it's about getting the idea, right? Because you can just sit back and watch it from further away. You don't have to get right up close and inspect everything. You know, the beauty in the world in real life is the detail. And when you're trying to replicate real life, then the detail is the most important thing. But if you're trying to tell a story that's a piece of escapism, that's a piece of art, that's trying to tell something that isn't real, then I don't really see what the point of chasing that detail is. And I think it's a fruitless task that we're just going to carry on. We'll carry on doing it forever if that's what we're going to do. And eventually we'll just be chasing, you know, it's like how the PS5 wasn't really that much better than the PS4, which wasn't that much better than the PS3. But the PS3 was a fair bit better than the PS2, and the PS2 was a hell of a lot better than the PS1, and the PS1 was a hell of a lot better than the SNES, which was better than the NES. And it's gotten to the point where it's smaller and smaller increments. I can already imagine what PS6 quality video games are going to look like. I can't imagine if we were in the year 2000, I couldn't imagine what PS3 graphics would look like. It would be like out of my imagination. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this quite rambly video on high definition, low definition, 4K, etc., etc. Put your thoughts in the comments below. If you've wanted to be making something that isn't, you know, chasing the super high fidelity, then let me know. And if you've released something that's in like 8K, let me know as well. See what works for you, see what doesn't, and it's really important to do that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about professional film sets and why over the years I've become a little bit weary of them, and I feel like the ultimate professional look isn't necessarily a goal to strive towards. So I'm going to tell a few stories of various professional film sets that I've been on. I used to do a lot more in regard to being on sets. You know, I was the grunt. I did all the stuff like delivering the coffees and, you know, the assistant camera to the assistant camera to the camera operator, who's the assistant to the director of photography, who's then the assistant essentially to the director. So that's like 7 layers of bureaucracy right there. You know, I've done various sound recording gigs on projects that maybe aren't necessarily top tier professional, but they are trying to emulate that style of thing as well. And I thought I'd just tell you some stories about that and how this utter excess and indulgence within the filmmaking community as a business can kind of get in the way of the art and the actual narrative and the storytelling, the characters and the ideas that you're trying to get across. So first off, I wanted to talk to you about this, and I can't name any of these things by the way because I'm going to be talking smack about them, but the first thing is I was on this big TV set, very big set. We were filming at this big stately home, and it was like this historical thing, so there were a lot of extras, and I think they were doing some scene with this is the thing, I was on the sets and I don't even really know what they were filming because the sets are these closed off things, and then you've got the rest of the crew that kind of help out with various parts of this, but you don't really know what it is that you're actually making, and you don't know what it is that they're making because the crew is a group of about 20, maybe 30 people that hide off somewhere that you don't really see that often. So when I got onto the set, I got there for 7 in the morning, and first off, we had to spend a lot of time. I was like just a grunt, basic grunt. And first thing we had to do was spend all this time moving stuff from like one room, down a corridor, down some stairs, into another room. And I was like, okay, yeah, just moving stuff, I can do that. So we did all that. We were done with that by about 9:30. And at that point, I think the director and the producers and like the director of photography had shown up. And I think beforehand, they had the assistant camera people kind of building the camera. They had this big Arri Alexa set up with all like tentacle time code things on them and big screens on them and various little gizmos and gadgets that help the Arri Alexa work really well. And you know, all the latest and greatest lenses. Probably about looking at the value of a house in you know, Hoxley for what that was, that single camera. And that's not even talking about the tripod and then the sound equipment. So when I got out from doing all this moving, I came back out into the courtyard, and I saw that there were all these tents, kind of in the back area behind the courtyard where they weren't going to be filming anything. So I was walking around, and there was like the director's tent that had few chairs and a computer and like a couple monitors in it, and what I presume was the director. I never met the director, never said hello to him. I don't think he even knows who I am or whether I exist. Then you had the camera tent, which had all boxes stacked high with camera equipment, and you had a similar one for the sound department, and then you had a similar one for the gaffer department. And for those who aren't aware, the gaffer is essentially like the electrician and general mechanical expert of a film crew. If you were on a small set, for instance, that had one of everything, your gaffer would be the guy that brings like tripods and dollies and stuff like that and sets that kind of thing up. Sometimes they help with lighting, but sometimes that's a separate department on top of that, which is generally called a lighting tech. And also gaffers tend to help with electrical things, like they'll be the ones that bring like extension cables and things like that. And you know, big battery packs, or maybe like a generator if they're filming out in the forest, or some stuff like that. So you've got a gaffer department, you've got the camera department, you've got the sound department, and in this set we had a lighting tech department. And then those tents kind of surround, I think there was one other tent that I couldn't figure out what it was. And then maybe, oh, it was probably for like a coffee station, because there was in the middle, there was a big group of people that were sitting there all day, and I didn't really know what they were talking about, but they all seemed to be talking in quite hush-hush voices. And there were people that, you know, oh yeah, here's your coffee, here's your coffee, here's your coffee, here's your coffee. And they're all just sort of, they're not even acknowledging that this person that's given them the coffee even exists. They're not going, oh, thank you, thank you. They're just like that. So there's no, you know, the way that they see it is this old world kind of hierarchy where the people on the top are the superior beings, and then the people on the bottom are the lesser beings because they haven't grafted hard enough, and they should be treated like they don't even exist. And I'm not even talking about necessarily overworking, because, you know, these sets are infamously often, you know, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours long. And that's in this country. You know, if you go to a country with more lax employment laws, you start looking at 17, 18-hour days. Some of my Indian friends who've made films in India will know what I'm talking about with regards to that. I've heard some real horror stories with stuff like, you know, getting to set for 3 a.m, finishing at 11 a.m, and then having to go home and be back for set at the next 3 a.m. And some people just like stay in their car in the car park, or like just drive to the nearest place where they can park and just sleep there for a couple hours, because they know they won't get good sleep, so they'll end up waking up at like 2, and they do that kind of thing. So my point is that there is this big hierarchy, right? And I was right at the bottom of that hierarchy, but I seem to be below even the people that are giving the coffees out, because no one seemed to remember that I was actually here being employed, meant to do a job, along with about 30 other people that are exactly like me. So we're all behind the court. So there's the courtyard where they were doing a bit of filming, and then there's like the side courtyard where they had all the tents, and then there's like behind the court is like a field, like a back garden kind of. It's just a big field with some trees and stuff in it, and someone had brought a rugby ball or found a rugby ball somewhere, and we just started throwing them. We played catch, me and about a dozen other people. We just played catch for about 6 hours, 7 hours, and every now and then, like, an assistant producer would come up with a clipboard and go, "Oh, Josh, you doing anything?" And I catch the ball, I'd be like, "No, I'm not doing anything." And then she would go, "Oh, yeah, take these flyers. They're basically just to tell people that we're filming. Just go around and find loads of lampposts, put them on every lamppost, and you see the arrows on them. Try and make the arrows align with what's actually on the thing and the direction. So like if something says set this way, then make sure that the bit of paper is actually telling the truth, and it's not like the set's actually that way, if that makes sense. Make the directions accurate." So then I would just do that. That would take maybe 20 minutes. And that was quite fun, actually. It was just nice having a nice walk. I was basically just walking around and with these big zip ties, just tying these things to lampposts and traffic posts and stuff like that. That was quite fun. And then we played a bit more catch. There was one guy who I think was probably too high up to be doing this, so every once in a while a bigger producer would come and just get angry specifically at him, and he would be very like, "Oh yeah, whatever," and he would kind of laugh it off. I presume that he was so confident in his job that he knew he was in the right, and he'd already done whatever he was meant to do, and so he was just out having a good time. And that was fun. You know, I did that for, you know, I've done variations on that kind of thing, but that was the most egregious one, where I did the most nothing. I did the most nothing. So that's the kind of thing that happens on a big film set. Think like Peaky Blinders. It wasn't Peaky Blinders. I'm not going to tell you what the show was, because to be honest, I don't actually know what the show is. But I know it's this period thing, probably like in the vein of Peaky Blinders. You know, it looked like there was some Victorian kind of stuff knocking around. I don't know if it was British or American. I know the Americans like to come over here and make use of our tax advantages to make their films, like the Star Wars sequels, episode 7, 8 and 9. A lot of them were filmed here, like, you know, Luke's planet, you know, where he's sucking on that weird monster's teat. That was all filmed. It was either filmed like in Norfolk sort of area, or it was filmed on the other side, whatever that bit above Birmingham but below Manchester is called. I can't remember what that area is called. It was filmed somewhere around there, right? And then a couple other sets that I've been on have been very similar to that, because there are so many people that you end up not having much delegated to you, because all the important jobs have been delegated to all the people that are there to do, like the DOP, for instance, is working a lot because they've got a lot to do and they make a lot of decisions, and so they delegate to the camera assistant, and then the maybe the focus puller, and like maybe the focus puller will occasionally help, like go grab a lens or that kind of thing. You're on them kind of sets where it's not completely rigid what the roles are, but you are basically, like, if you're if you're a focus puller, you're not worrying about the sound. You don't, like, you're not allowed to tell the actors that you thought like the performance was a bit naff, and I understand that the segregation of duties is quite useful, because you don't want everyone giving their own little 2 cents. Because I've directed sets where it felt like everyone was just trying to question my vision, and I have to sort of be the authority and just go, everyone, stop. I love your suggestions, but stop suggesting stuff. I know what we're doing, and this is what we're doing. You know, sometimes you do need to have that. But I do feel like a lot of these bigger sets, you're just kind of there. You're not really getting much done. And a lot of the time, like the lighting tech, he'll be up here, right? And pretend this is a light. He'll be kind of like this. Oh. Can I have a runner over here, please? Yeah, just poke a hole in it. Okay. Right, right, that should help bring a bit more light in. Okay, no, it's not working, we're gonna need a bit more. Okay, all right, give me a sec. Is that enough? Yeah, is that good? Okay, now we need to get a fill light on over that side. Can I have a runner just over there, please? And yep, thank you very much. All right, now come over here. Can you hold this light? Okay. Well, you're terrible at your job. And then goes to the other side and he's like, oh, okay. Do you know what it's about? I can't see my face right now, but I know that there can be shadows that can appear, particularly here. Say if you've got a side light that's hitting you this side, it's gonna hit your nose, and the nose is gonna create a little shadow like that. So Hollywood sets and these big professional sets don't like that for whatever reason. They hate the idea of natural lighting. So they will spend, honest to God, about an hour just to hide that bit of shadow, because they'll be moving things just like what I was demonstrating there. And then say if the scene starts off with someone like in a doorway and they say a couple lines, okay, and then they sit down, right, and then they say a couple lines. That's 2 setups, right? So that means that the guy has got to move all the lights around all over again to hide the same little bit of the nose. And I know there's going to be some lighting people in the comments that are going to be really quite annoyed at my perspective at this, but honestly, I would rather see the flaws in things. And I think because because Hollywood is so, and not just Hollywood, I'm talking about professional film sets in general, the sort of thing you might see on TV or in the cinema, or you know, just corporate feeling stuff in general, right? I think because everything's been so perfected over the years, and there's this expectation that everything has to look a certain way, and if things don't look that way, then they look bad. So for instance, a film like Primer, look, that was filmed on like a little digicam sort of thing, or maybe it was shot on film, I can't remember, I don't think it was. That looks bad because it doesn't look the same as all the other films that are have that same slight little dolly thing going around like that, or they've got the same makeup on all the actors, even the male actors, and you've got all the same kind of elements, no matter if it's a horror or a thriller or a love story or a cheesy comedy or Schindler's List or whatever. They're all kind of the same. And what really frustrates me is that there is so much more room for expression if we were more open to the idea of naturalistic filmmaking. And that's why I have recently realized that what I've been doing with my own film sets is I've been on these various film sets and I've sort of thought to myself, oh, this is the way it's done, this is the way that people expect it to be done. You know, my crew are expecting a professional set. And I feel like if you try and emulate a professional set without the professional resources, what's the point? What's the point of creating full stop? Because you are essentially feeding the corporate machine with your own soul. You're putting your own heart and soul and your time and your patience and your energy and your mental well-being into this thing just for the sake of this corporate looking thing that looks the same as all the other films that have the same thing, where it's two people are sat on a bench. You've got that shot that this camera's getting right now, and then you've got the shot that's over here that gets him over the shoulder, and then you get another one like this. And it's like that, okay? And then when it starts to get a bit more serious, when it gets into the deeper part of the conversation, you do this. And then you do another one for this guy when he's going to do a monologue, this guy here. He's going to do a big monologue about, you know, how his life feels meaningless and he feels like he might just want to end it all. And the other guy's trying to sell him, no, I love your life and I want to hang out with you more. Oh, I'm so sad, blah, 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 blah. And you know, it's fun to close in because, you know, I'm not decrying these movements and these individual pieces, these tools. I'm decrying the pattern of using the same tools in the same ways for the same reasons. And there is obviously the film language that has developed over the years, you know, like the Kuleshov effect, where it's, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it now. So I've cut there to 3 different images, right? And you notice that on the last 2 I was smiling. The first one, it looked like I was smiling at something kind of sweet. And the second one, it looked like I was smiling at something really, that made me look like a right creep. You know, so you've got the cinematic language that has been developed over the years by, you know, all the greats, all the classics, all the people that you read about in your film studies and stuff like that. All people that I have been taught about and I've kind of forgotten and I only know them on a subconscious level. You know, I'm not saying don't use film language and don't try and, you know, but also use a part of your own film language. Think about how you approach cinema and how you see your works and the works of, you know, your favorite artists and what they're doing and how you could do something similar but in a different way, and you could use that idea that they've got, but you don't want to have it in that context. You could put it in this other context and it would actually feel like a different thing entirely. You know, you can make the same dolly zoom in that I was just doing on that guy who's giving the monologue about like ending his life, and you could make it a one about like, oh, you know, I've never told you this before, but I'm sorry, I'm not a very good actor. It's like, no, I've seen you on all the big TV sets and I think that you're grand, I think that you're wonderful, and I don't even know how to say this, but can I have your autograph? And it's like, oh yes, please. And zooming in the entire way, you know, that would look totally different, that would feel, and the purpose of the zoom would feel totally different, you know? So it would be kind of fun. So this is why I dislike a lot of these professional films. And I'm saying professional films rather than like any particular types of people, because I'm not saying that there aren't professional films that are good. I'm not saying that there aren't, you know, absolute fantastic directors and fantastic writers and fantastic actors out in the famous parts of this film culture, you know, like, you know, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a really good actor, and he's probably the most famous actor around right now. So famous, he only has to do a film every couple of years. So, and he's a really good actor, you know, and every role he does, he brings something really interesting to it, you know. So it's not that there isn't talent that's going on. It's that I feel like the corporate angle of these sets are really bringing down a lot. Like you couldn't make The Wolf of Wall Street as a folk film, as a, you know, $2,000 budget made with your friends kind of thing. It would be crap. Like, let's be real. You couldn't make Schindler's List for $500. You couldn't do that. You couldn't, and it wouldn't be. What would be the point? You know, some stories need that grandiosity, and you know, it is a good thing that Hollywood can provide that in some way. And I'm using Hollywood as a generic term for large film production companies, not necessarily just within Hollywood, but also within the British film institutions and Bollywood and Nollywood and you know, various. Well, not really Nollywood. That's kind of low budget, but it's trying to be high budget. Anyway, you know, I'm not decrying these things outright. You know, there are films out there like that. You know, you can look at them and be like, okay, that has earned its $200 million budget. You know. And then you'll see something and you just sort of think, why did we bring all these people together for this purpose, for this vision? This is not the vision that you know, so many people came on for any reason other than money. No one came onto this for any reason other than money, bar maybe one or two people that were weirdly invested in the idea. And I do feel like, you know, what I've been saying has been quite unprofessional, and it probably, you know, raises some red flags about my approach to making films. And if you've noticed that, and if you've already left a comment in the thing below, then, you know, I don't really have anything to add in that regard. Just that it's important to me that we try and move past the singular, sterilized corporate vision for a lot of these films. Like, they can be comforting in a sort of very dry way, but I just don't. I feel like there's so much more in the room of expression. And an example, not example, but an idea I've always floated is the BBC made this show Taboo, and it cost £5 million per episode, right? And it stars Tom Hardy, who was at the height of his fame, and it's all like big Victorian era sets. And that's not the film that's not the series that I was on, by the way, that I was referring to earlier. Wasn't that? And I feel like if you took the $5 million per episode, and I think they made 6 episodes, so let's call it 30 million, right? You took that 30 million, and you split that up into chunks of 100,000. Okay, you know, because people need to get paid, unions need to be, you know, accommodated, locations need release forms and stuff like that, right? Let's say 100,000 to loads of shows, to loads of creatives to make a 6-episode thing, and that can be kind of whatever. So you get 100,000. That's 10. That's 30. That's 30 shows for the price of one, right there. And that's with a very loose approach to this sort of thing. When I've gone further with this, it's turned out that you can actually make 300 shows for the price of one, or you could go even further with it and just like get a load of people to make something with like a camcorder and just kind of have fun with it, and you can make 3,000 shows for the price of one. But I think by that point you're starting to get diminishing returns. But I do think if you had 30 shows for the price of one, you're going to get one show that is better than Taboo, at least. Because Taboo wasn't that good. It was all right, I guess. It looked slick and polished, I suppose, and well done to the core crew in that, you know, group of 25 that show would have had. That, you know, put all that hard work in and grafted on it, and well done to them, you know. But I feel like it would be such a more interesting cinematic, creative landscape if we encouraged the little guy, and we instead of funding a couple of huge projects, we started funding lots of smaller projects. Like in the 50s and the 60s in cinema, they had like the David Lean epic, the Lawrence of Arabia, the Dr. Zhivago, you know, the greatest story ever told, things like that, the Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, these kind of things, right? And huge, bombastic, you know, thousands of extras on their locations, hundreds of big actors, you know, budgets that are rival, you know, like the likes of Avengers Endgame and that kind of thing, right? And in the 70s, there became this trend to, instead of putting all your eggs into that basket, with the advent of television as well, that kind of helped to even the playing fields. but more low-budget films, semi-low-budget films started coming out. You started getting things like Jaws and even Star Wars to a degree, and you got and Taxi Driver, and you got a lot of films that you wouldn't have gotten in the 50s and the 60s. And you kind of got more of them as well because the money was able to be more evenly spread. And, you know, budget doesn't make a film. You know, the most expensive films out there aren't the best ones. I mean, you know, I'm sure a lot of people out there think Titanic and Endgame and Avatar are like their favorite ever films, but I don't think anyone would really sit down and seriously try and argue that Avatar is the best film ever made, and I quite like Avatar. I'm a bit of a defender of it. But, you know, is it the best film ever made? No. All my favorite films are in the range of about 1 to maybe 30, possibly 50 million. And then there's some that are way lower budget than that, like The Man from Earth, which cost next to nothing. I think it cost maybe 100,000, something like that. So you have got all these sort of, and if you had the budget spread across more even playing grounds, there would be more opportunity for employment as well. Instead of having all these people getting around doing nothing on these big sets, I mean, what qualifications and experience did I gain from playing catch for 9 hours? I mean, I learned how to catch a ball, but I already knew how to do that. Sure, I had a bit of fun and I got some exercise in, but you know, I didn't learn anything about how film sets work in any capacity other than it's a big waste of time. And I know that sounds cynical, and I know that my approach probably comes across like someone who didn't make it in the industry and is jealous and all that. But, you know, and if you want to read this video as that, then you're more than welcome to. But I ended up shifting gears towards doing events. I take my camera everywhere and I do events and videography gigs and stuff like that, where it's a one-man, possibly two-man crew. And you know, the pay's better than when I was on the grunt film sets, and I get to be in charge. I get to make my own decisions, and I get to actually have some leeway and do things in my own way. And I get to learn through doing things. And I wouldn't exchange that for those big film sets for anything in the world. I think it's so much more fun. And it's not that events don't annoy me in various ways, but it at least challenges me in ways other than trying to get up early. That's another good thing about events, is most of them take place in the evening. I don't have to get up early anymore. I'm not a morning person. I don't like getting up at 6 in the morning to be at a place for 7. I don't like walking around when it's dark outside. And you know, I've just woken up, it feels really weird. I think if you are someone that is part of a larger film set and you know, you've been doing that kind of thing for a while, and you know, maybe you're part of that core crew of these big shoots, please do talk to me in the comments about, you know, your experience and what you kind of make of what I've been saying throughout this, and you know, what ideas you might have for the future of cinema and what we could do to try and improve the way that we create and the way that our overall, as a species, our business model regarding film, how it could be improved in various ways. Personally, I think if you strip things down and you make things a lot smaller and you make more small things rather than a few big things, you're bound to create a lot more interesting works, because you get more throws of the dice. And so, yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've got to tell for today. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm going to be doing a few more videos about film and that kind of thing. If you kind of come for the London content, I kind of talk about whatever. So, yeah. Thank you very much and take care. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about short form content, your TikToks, your Instagram Reels, your YouTube Shorts, your Facebook Reels. There's probably more of these kind of things out there. You know, these vertical videos that are all like 1 minute long and they have that sort of text that subtitles each of the videos that's done by an AI, so it's always a little bit wrong. You know, you kind of got all these sort of videos, and then it's the whole, the scrolling thing. I really dislike it. And this video is sort of to try and air my grievances with it, because I do need to get over it. I need to get used to the fact that this is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and it's actually been here for quite a while now. So I think it started off with Vines. Vine launched in, I believe, 2013 or 2014, and it lasted for about 4 years, and it shut down, I think, like 2018. and then that got replaced with Musical.ly, that then got replaced with TikTok, and TikTok was the one that really launched us into the stratosphere, this huge scale onslaught of these short form videos. And now short form content is kind of the new thing, it's the big thing that people need to sort of get on. And for instance, with this channel, I know that I should be making these videos into short form little 1-minute snippets of some of the best bits, because I know that that would probably do really well. And it's not that I'm not going to, I am going to play with the devil in that kind of regard, but I don't really want to. And the reason I don't want to is because I feel like it's feeding into this endless doom scrolling that kind of happens. And I feel like the doom scroll is kind of the big issue with the internet at the moment. You know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it would be a case you had pages. So you would get down to the bottom of the page and then you would click the next page and then you would scroll down the next page. But once you get onto page 3, you feel a bit bad because you've gotten to page 3. You never normally get to page 3, you're normally on page 1. Now there's none of that. You just scroll up super high. Hello. Hello. So now you kind of, instead of having a 12, 15, 20, 30 minute sort of thing, you instead have a lot of very short 10 to 30 to a minute long videos. So 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute, possibly up to 3 minutes. But I don't think those are particularly popular. I think the golden zone, the golden space of this is about 30, 40 seconds for these short form clips, because what you tend to do is, at least for me, what happens is I'm in the morning, right? I'm in bed and I'm a bad person for getting up. I really struggle to get up in the morning. So you get on your phone, you see if you've got any texts or anything. You're like, okay, a couple of people are texting me. All right, I'll get back to them. So what I do is I go onto YouTube and I'm like, okay, I want maybe some music, or maybe like a bit of a podcast, or just some YouTube video, you know, just something to fill my brain with some activity so that it brings me to life a little bit. It's like the coffee before the coffee, if that makes sense. So you get on it and you sort of, because your brain is still quite weak-willed. My willpower is very weak in the morning because I'm still really groggy. I've just woken up, I'm not thinking at full capacity. And so it's in those moments where you get these quite head-graspingly, like, clickbaity kind of titles. And you know that because it's a short form piece of content, it's only like 30 seconds, so you might as well chuck it on, see what it is, because it's not going to take much of your attention anyway. And then what happens is you watch that and then you scroll down because it's just a natural motion, whoosh, and you see the next one, oh, okay, whoosh. And then you start going on the comments, and you start scrolling down the comments whilst you're watching this thing in the background, which has already got like Subway Surfers or whatever on the bottom with the podcast clip that they've stolen at the top to kind of, you know, engage your attention even more. And now you're going a step beyond that and reading the comments while that's going on. So it's like that level of short attention span isn't even enough for you. You've already lost your short attention span from watching a bloody YouTube short of a TikTok. And so you start going through these comments and they incense you because, like, particularly what I find is there's stuff like trad wives, or like, you know, you get, sometimes mine comes up with bullshit like, hello, like never anything wholesome like this. You end up getting like crap like Andrew Tate and really nasty people like that coming on, and I end up getting incensed by it and I get angry by it, and the comments incense me even further because it's just going so much further because the comments all agree with this stuff, and it's like I'm talking to an alien race that wants the worst for humanity. And that just gets my brain thinking really grim stuff in the morning. And then that negativity isn't further incensed as you scroll further and further along, because the algorithm attaches to the fact that you stayed on this for a long time and you gave it your engagement. When it wasn't positive engagement, it was very negative engagement. It made me feel bad. It made me feel worse as a result of watching it. And I'd rather it did not exist full on. And I don't like to say that about works of art. I have a very broad view of what art is. And I really hate the fact that I have to technically call these things art in my definition of it. But I kind of do. Art isn't necessarily for the benefit of humanity. It's just a tool of expression. So there's some people out there that have really horrible things to express. And that is what I feel like the short form thing is festering. And I know it's because of that's what it thinks I like, because I end up giving it my attention. And so I try and actively just quickly go past it. Whenever politics come up, boom, go away, quick, now. Get onto some like Neil deGrasse Tyson talking some bollocks about space. And okay, yeah, that's all right. That's just some like nebulous whatever kind of fact that doesn't have any political culture war bullshit attached to it, and that's all right. And then, you know, you end up going on the comments anyway, and the comments are all so negative. I had to uninstall Instagram because genuinely, you go on Instagram, and I had to use it for my business and stuff, so I'd be on it a fair bit to try and promote, you know, my old business. And I would end up on the Instagram Reels, and on the Instagram Reels it's so much worse than, say, the YouTube Shorts, because the people on there, I think there's a lot of bots for a start, but some of the attitudes towards like women, ethnic minorities, and like, you know, just life in general is just absolutely fucking foul, and I really can't stand it. And I think the fact that this sort of content proliferates that type of thinking is part of why I dislike it so much. But even if it didn't do that, I think I would dislike it just on the sense that how much can you really communicate in a minute? I mean, I don't know how long this video is at the moment. I feel like it's probably like 4 or 5 minutes in, and how could I, it's 7 minutes in, so how could I possibly communicate this much stuff in 1 minute? Unless I really spoke really, really quick and I did everything like this and I had to do everything really scripted and everything, I start talking like this. And there are people that do that, and there's that very quick TikTok voice that kind of goes around. And you know, there's also tricks like starting the video in the middle so you get people confused, and then they end up watching it twice to see the entire thing, because now they've seen it from the halfway point to the halfway point of the next one. So you end up getting more audience retention. And it's basically a hub for trying to game the algorithm and trying to, because gaming the algorithm basically means trying to manipulate an audience into doing what you want. I mean, the call to action is technically a form of that, but at least it's upfront about it. It's just you politely asking, hey, can you subscribe? Can you like the video and leave a comment? That's all right. But with this stuff, it feels like you're manipulating them into watching the video more, or leaving some kind of comment. You know, on Instagram, I don't know if they still do it because I've uninstalled Instagram, but you know, there was that thing of like, double tap this to see the thing, to see the shape that it makes, or that kind of thing. Like there'll be a little heart-shaped void in a basic like black and white image, and you double tap it and the heart comes up and it fills that space, and now you've technically liked the video. So when I was on Instagram, I kind of do them just to see what it looked like, and then I would unlike the video again. I'd unlike the picture, and you know, even doing that's probably gained it some boost on the algorithm, and it's been seen as a form of engagement because I have technically liked the video. So, I don't know, all of these tricks and all these things make this platform of short form content, which isn't just YouTube, it's TikTok, it's Twitter does it as well, Facebook, all of them do it. They've all ripped off TikTok, and TikTok then came from Musical.ly, which came from Vine. Which at least Vine had the thing of being 6 seconds long, so there was that sort of trying to fit as much into that space as possible, but now they're a bit longer. It's not even that as a gimmick anymore, it's just that this is the new thing, this is the new norm. And I hope as time goes on, it stabilizes, and this really nasty stuff is basically an echo of, say, 2015, 2016 YouTube, when YouTube started to get really, really ubiquitous, extremely ubiquitous, more so than it was before. And the response to that was an extreme offensive kind of quality to the videos, and people wanted like things to be as offensive as possible, and you had, you know, just really nasty things being said about people and all this sort of drama and stuff. I feel like I'm hoping that that's what's going on with TikTok and all these things at the moment, is that it's just an echo of, say, 2015, 2016 YouTube, and that this, you know, Andrew Tatey, alt-right, incel sort of bullshit is going to slowly go away. But even if it does, I don't know if that's my whole issue with the platform in general. I feel like there's not much you can express with that amount of space. There's not much you can do with the amount of time that you're given in that regard. And I feel like, what are we going to do going forwards? Are we going to keep this up? Are we going to start seeing films made with TikToks on TikToks? Are we going to see like a 20-part movie come out on TikTok that's like an hour-long special? And you know, it's like, sit around for part 2, next 3-minute scene, and the next 3-minute one, and so on and so forth. What's going to happen? Is TikTok going to replace YouTube? I really hope it doesn't. But at the same time, I also want YouTube to no longer be a monopoly. So it's a very confusing topic, because I don't actually have any of the answers to any of these things going forwards. Because I try to be constructive with these things, and I feel like with this, all I can do is just sit and point and jeer and go, God, look at all this bullshit that comes up. Because it's so brainless as well. Like, when I find myself scrolling through it in the morning, I find like an hour goes by, and then my mind just snaps out of it. It's like, Josh, what are you doing? Get off that. And then it's like, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry to my own brain, and I get off it. And I'm like, okay, thank God. And I feel like I've just come out of this really awful trance. And is that what it's going to be in the future? As you know, these creators start to get even better at manipulating their audiences into engaging with their content, is that hour going to turn into 2 hours? Is it going to become a case that they get so good at manipulating their audiences that everyone's in it? Because like my nan watches TikToks now. My nan watches TikTok. Like people in my life that, you know, were sort of people that I would think were way too intelligent to ever get into this TikTok stuff suddenly started getting into it. And it really freaked me out because I was like, oh God, it's going to happen to me. And it did happen to me because YouTube Shorts started coming out. And once that happened, I couldn't escape them anymore. I can't uninstall the YouTube app on my phone. It's physically impossible. You can't do it. I'm sure there's some hack to doing it, but and I know there's that YouTube Advanced thing, but I tried to do that. I couldn't get it to work. So I'm stuck with this. I'm stuck with this TikTok bullshit. And I don't want it there. I really would like this whole genre of content to go away, and for, you know, more genuine expression and more in-depth discussion and thought and art to, you know, proliferate throughout this beautiful thing that we've got called the internet. Because it is amazing the fact that we can democratize the creative landscape and take power away from the established media that comes before us, and we're able to put the power in our own hands and you know, do a direct creator to the audience sort of thing. I think that's really beautiful, and I hope that we can continue to do that. And I hope that TikTok just becomes a thing of the past, but I'm not optimistic about that. I'm really not. So yeah, that's going to be, I think, the video. Thank you so much for watching this very pessimistic video. Bit of a moany one, I know, but I don't have much good to say about the platform. It's not that I've never seen a TikTok I've enjoyed. I've seen a couple I've enjoyed, but a couple in probably tens of thousands at this point, because they suck you in. They really suck you in. I don't like it. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Are there any TikToks you like? Are there any things like that you enjoy? Or do you find yourself getting sucked in as well? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Please share them. Would love to know. Yeah, that's going to be all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. This is really comfortable, this spot. Like, I'm going to have to get up at a certain point, and I don't want to. Oh, God. Oh, I need to get up. I feel like I'm in bed right now. Oh, God, okay. Go on the YouTube app and then suddenly start scrolling through things on my phone. That'd be a good way of ending the video, wouldn't it? You do just look like this. Yeah, it's shit, isn't it? Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the term content and why I kind of dislike it. So what is content, first of all? I think it's an amalgamation of all the things that have come from the advent of the internet sort of age, where there is so much stuff out there: films, videos, articles, audio, songs, promotional pieces for all of these various things, tweets, Facebook posts, all this sort of stuff. It all needs a term, right? And I think content is a good term for describing these things. However, I feel like the term content has become more of a thing about you're out to make content, not to make works of, say, art, or to make films, or to make certain things that can challenge, and rather to make something that is just designed to be put on in the background while someone does the dishes, or tries to go to sleep, or has a bath, or whatever. And it's all about, you know, chasing algorithms and like audience retention and all this sort of stuff, rather than it being about a true expression of what's going on in terms of what you're trying to get across in whatever it is that you're making, be it an album, be it a film, be it an article, be it a book, a novel, a autobiography, you know, all of these various things. And I feel like with content and, you know, the advent of algorithms and mass doom scrolling kind of access to, you know, random people kind of like myself, you probably just found this because you know, you went on the YouTube homepage and you saw this, and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. I wonder what this guy's on about. And you've clicked it, and you're sort of not really giving it much of your attention, which is totally fine, because I do the same thing with other people kind of like this. You kind of watch it, you have it on in the background, and you sort of see what's going on. You might hear one bit, and it's like, oh, that bit kind of sticks with you. And that's
fine. But I think the further you go down the content creation sort of thing, you notice that there's an awful lot of stuff being made that is just being made for the sake of garnering clicks, garnering views and attention and all this sort of stuff, rather than because they actually have something to say. They just want to be heard, but they don't actually have anything that they want to get across. So they're just sort of shouting into a void and hoping that a stadium will come and have a look at them. And, I get why they want to do it, because, everyone in the sort of past 10 years who's been in the sort of media industry at large has been trying to crack the secret of the algorithms, has been trying to, become the next sort of big, online persona, and been trying to do certain things that can, because obviously having an online audience is probably one of the most powerful things you can have now in the media landscape. If you want to make a film and you've got a pre-built-in audience for that film, that means that you're far more likely to sort of maybe garner potential investors, because they see that there's a potential to actually recoup their money here, because there's actually an audience that would be interested in this sort of thing. So people everywhere that are in this industry want to get an audience, but they don't necessarily know what to do with that audience. They don't know what they want to provide that audience. And so they just make crap. They just put stuff together for the sake of just trying to make stuff. And it becomes this thing called content. And I've done it as well. Everyone has sort of done it, because you've got to do it to try and find your own voice. But as time goes on and you keep sort of doing stuff, it sort of becomes a cynical thing that I've noticed with a lot of content, particularly on the YouTube shorts and the TikToks and all that sort of stuff, where it's about they realized that if you incense an audience and you make an audience angry at a certain thing, that garners an awful lot more engagement. You're going to get more comments of people going, "Oh, I bloody hate this," "Oh, this thing's so bad," or, "Oh," and then they share it with their friends and their family because they've gotten annoyed by it. So they're like, "Check this out, isn't this so stupid? Oh, bloody hell." That kind of thing. And that gets shared further and further. Whereas I think with positivity, it's a lot harder for that to work, because it's a lot more of an internal isolation-y kind of thing to watch positive sort of content. Like this sort of video here, I presume this isn't a video you would watch with like a big group of friends. This is a thing that you might watch on your own, or maybe with like, I don't know, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever. Maybe like, 2 people max watching it, not loads and loads and loads and loads of people, like you would maybe with, say, I don't know. I remember when I was a sort of like teenager and Sausage Party came out, and me and a load of friends went to see Sausage Party just to laugh at it, because it looked fucking awful, and I honestly don't remember a single thing about that film, so it can't have been that good. But I think now that people have recognized that you can just go out there and just make crap and slop that people will just eat up, particularly with the YouTube shorts and the TikToks and all this sort of thing, it's become so easy now for people that are just cynical grifters, essentially, to come along, put zero effort into stuff, game the algorithm, game the audiences, because that's what an algorithm essentially is. It's the whims of what the audience wants, and the algorithm works according to what the audience actually wants. And if you're manipulating your audience into engaging with your content, then I don't know, this is where I feel like the term content is taking us. It's taking us to the commodification of art as a whole, because technically these things are a form of art. And I don't like calling it that, but what else would you call it? I mean, content, yeah, but everything's content at the end of the day. How's a building not content, Because it's a thing that's there and it has contents within it. A book has a contents on it, but it is also content. Is content just for the online space? Is it for everything? I don't really know. That's another thing, is it's such an all-encompassing term, but it has this sort of negative quality attached to it, where if you're making content, if you're a content creator, it feels like a lesser thing compared to if you're actually going out and making, say, albums, music, films, videos even, where it's about conveying whatever it is that you need to convey, because that's the point of creating stuff. It's because you've got something to say, so say it. And at the moment I've noticed my algorithm gets filled up, my YouTube homepage and my suggested videos. There's a lot of these Family Guy related things where it's like these sort of AI voices that read them out, and they have these thumbnails that are white, and they'll have some demonic looking version of Meg or Stewie or whatever. and it will sort of be like, he did what? With a big question mark, and it'd be like, the top 30 worst things Stewie Griffin ever did, or whatever. And you look at it, and it is literally just recounting bits from Family Guy. And I wonder about the people that make that sort of stuff. And it's like, is this satisfying for you? I mean, beyond just looking at the numbers, is this actually satisfying for you? Do you feel a resonance with your community, with the people that you're sharing this with? Do you feel like there's a purpose to you and what you're expressing? Or do you feel like if you were to disappear, that no one would actually lose anything of value? You know? Take your favorite, I don't know, filmmaker, creator, musician, right? At the moment, mine is, I'll take Neil Young, right? Take Neil Young. Imagine Neil Young just ceased to exist. He was just erased from history, right? All his albums are gone. I think the world would be a bit of a worse off place for it, because there's loads of good stuff he made, you know? Harvest Moon and all that, it's brilliant. But say if that Family Guy YouTube channel just disappeared and its entire existence was just forgotten about as a memory wipe on every single person that ever saw those videos. Would they miss out on anything? No, not really. They would have found another video to watch while they're cooking or while they're having a bath or whatever. They would have found their own way around it. And that's where I feel like content is, for me, as a term. I feel like it represents the commodification of art. And I would like to come up with some better term for the amalgamation of all artistic things, which I was using the term media for a fair bit in place of content, because I feel like, you know, we're making media, we're making forms of media, and like everything is media. You know, this YouTube channel is a media thing. This film production company, Miramax Studios, is a media thing. The Guardian is a media thing, etc., etc. But apparently it's already kind of got a term for, you know, being about the journalism sort of side of things. So fine, we can't use that. But we can surely come up with something that doesn't have the negative connotations that content does as a term. Because I feel like I'm not alone with this. I feel like other people surely would agree that content has this negative implication to it. It just sort of feels like it's cheap. It's like McDonald's fast food. It's not a holistic sort of emotive, you know, resonant sort of thing. And that's not saying it needs to be like, you know, Come and See, or like, you know, some really hardcore like indie bloody art house picture or something. You know, like I want to make a sitcom. My dream is to make a sitcom. A sitcom is essentially just old school slop, essentially. It's just sort of something that you put on while you're making your dinner, while you're like bored, or while you're just doing stuff, you know? And it's just a nice little thing that you can kind of go back to as comfort food. I like that. And I don't think content in that regard, in terms of easy to access, sort of easy to digest material, is a bad thing. I think that's an incredibly good thing, actually. And I will do a video about comfort food viewings at some point in the future. But I think for this, what's important is if you're making stuff, just think about why the audience is interested in this, and try and make it something where they can't get you anywhere else. They have to come to you for it, that you add something of your own personality, of your own self. You know, even if you're doing like, if you're uploading other things, like I've got a YouTube channel where I just upload things that I'm interested in, like, you know, like live shows from bands I like and stuff like that. I just upload like whatever I want, really. And it's a nice little thing to sort of have, because at the same, whilst it's not my content, it's at the same time stuff that I am holistically interested in. I remember getting a couple comments like, you're a channel that does this, and you also upload things from this show I like. Are you and me the same person? And I was like, oh wow, that means there's a little resonance there, because it's not like they're gonna sit there and you know, really care about what I'm making, because I'm not really putting any real effort into it. It's just it was essentially a marketing account, really, to sort of, for me to figure out what the algorithm kind of is like, and what it's like to upload certain videos and see the trends of various view bell curves and stuff like that. That's kind of why I did it, as market research rather than as like an artistic fulfillment. And, you know, if you're making things for artistic fulfillment and you can monetize them as well, like, I'm not saying you have to be a fucking like super true artiste, right? Because I'm not one of those either, and I feel like if you go too far down that way, you end up becoming pretentious, and I don't want to be pretentious, but at the same time, I want to be real. And I feel like content is a lack of real, in terms of not necessarily realism, but just it's not showing you anything that you can't get somewhere else. And
at that point it just becomes disposable, it becomes pointless, and why would you ever go back to it? And that's kind of what the term means to me. But it's also being used to describe these truer, bigger works of art. Take, for instance, a guy called Bobby Broccoli, who makes these really intricate, like 2-hour long documentaries about like various scientific scandals and stuff like that. He puts a lot of effort into them, so much research, and tells the story in a really conveying way. And technically what he makes is content. The same way that Family Guy thing, channel that I was talking about, is also making content. They're both making content, but the difference is one is actually fulfilling on an artistic level and to actually engage with, because it's providing you something unique, and the other one is just crap to put on because you have no other brain capacity to put on anything more challenging. And it's not that apologies, it's not that there isn't a place for easy to digest slop. It's not like, I mean, reality TV exists for a reason, and people like reality TV for a reason, because sometimes you don't want to be challenged, and sometimes you're not in a headspace where you are capable of being challenged in that kind of way. You just actively don't want that because it would hurt you. And that's fine, and we should make stuff for that. But I think what that should at least be more entertaining and interesting and stimulating than some of the stuff that's coming out in the really grifty sort of sides of the YouTube and TikTok and all the other ones. Wait, you ever scroll down Facebook recently and you see like the shorts that get recommended to you? The ones that come up for me, it's basically just like softcore pornography, and it's the shittest jokes ever. They're terrible. There's no humour to them at all, but they're obviously trying to be funny. They're miserable. They're so bad. But at the same time, they've got like millions of views each, and I don't understand why. But I think it's because they've gamed the algorithm. They know exactly what people will click on. They know why they'll click on it. They know what they're going to get out of it, and they know what to provide. And they know that they only need to provide a barest minimum. And so now everyone's providing this barest minimum, and it's getting this general culture of the audience to lower their expectations. And as time goes forwards, we're going to start meeting new minimums and then new minimums under that. And I feel like if we continue down that route, we're going to start seeing the degeneration of art as a total thing. And we're going to see much, much less in the way of true representations of people and more just general mild milquetoast critiques of the world at large. And I don't want that. I don't want that to be the case. I want the world to feel a bit deeper and more full of real individuals that are trying to express themselves as best they can, even if they fail. Because it's better to watch someone that's, doesn't necessarily know what they're doing, but is truly them, compared to someone who seems to be all slick and professional, but at the same time feels kind of phony. I recently got back into Ralph the Movie Maker. I used to watch him quite a lot when I was sort of like 17, 18. I've started getting back into him again and watching his old videos. And to be honest, his videos aren't all that like good looking. I remember at the time thinking they looked really good, but they actually look kind of crap. But they're nice. They feel like a true representation of who Ralph is, and the way that he critiques the films that he's watching, and the jokes that he kind of makes. While some of them might be dated to the 2016 sort of culture of YouTube, they're so fun because it is him. The same way that, I don't know, every other YouTuber that is a true nice personality that people attach to, you attach to because it's them, and you can't get that anywhere else. You can't just Google channels like iDubbbz and then just find another channel that's just iDubbbz like, and then just get into him the same sort of way. It's because it's not the same thing. You're not going to get the same sort of thing out of him. You ever find an album that you really like and then Google albums like this and then start listening to some of them, and you can't get that same thing in that other place? And that's what you need to be providing. You need to be providing something unique. And if you can provide something that's unique, then you're sorted. That's it. That's all you're doing. And if you might not be getting the views now, but as long as you remain yourself, and you keep trying things, something will end up happening. You'll end up, making an impact on at least one person. If you can make an impact on one person, that's kind of cool. Not necessarily it's even the goal of this. It's just kind of fun. It's nice to make people feel happy and contented with themselves. That's why I started making things, and I've always wanted to create, because I want people to, if you have like a really sad sort of Wednesday afternoon where everything feels a bit miserable, you ever, like, when that happens to me, I start watching other sort of things, and I might binge watch a few things, and it sort of makes me feel better. It makes me forget about the troubles in my life, and I want other people to get that kind of thing from these videos, and I hope that's the case. So
Yeah, I hope you liked this video about why I dislike content. I hope it made some vague level of sense and I didn't ramble on and go in too many different directions. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. And let's try and figure out a new term instead of content that doesn't have that negative implication. Something that can, you know, inspire rather than to sort of feel like an admission. Like, I feel like if I was to say I'm a content creator, that's almost like I'm admitting it rather than being proud of it. So let's come up with some new term. If you come up with any cool ideas, you can even just make up fucking words, I don't care. Let's come up with some mad ass word, like use all the weirdest consonants that never get used next to each other or whatever. You know, let's do something like that. Or maybe let's do one that has every single vowel. Let's do that. Yeah. So yeah, have a good one. Take care. Love you all. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk about your pieces of art and the effort that you go towards making them and the heart and soul that you put into it, and how you can balance the heart and soul that you put into your works of art compared to your life as a whole, because you are not a conduit for your art. That is going to be probably the title of the video, and I want to really emphasize that early on, because there is no point in you suffering in any untold magnitude for the sake of a creation. No one need die, no one need be maimed, no one need be hurt, emotionally or physically in any capacity to create works of art. That's not to say that making films and all this sort of stuff is easy. Obviously there'll be challenges along the way, but if you feel uncomfortable at any point doing any of this stuff, then please stop, because you're not a conduit for your art. You're not a lightning rod, okay, to capture lightning in a bottle. You are a person with their own personality and their own interests outside of this creative field. Don't let this overtake everything, because it is very easy to let this whole thing become your entire personality, and many people do, and I am and have been one of them. Like for the past 3 or 4 weeks when I've been doing these videos, I've basically been waking up, focusing on the videos, going to bed, waking up, focusing on the videos, go to bed, wake up, film, go to bed, wake up, film, go to bed, edit, wake up, you know, etc., right? And I keep going and going and going and going and going, right? And I realized that I was neglecting my personal life. I was neglecting my friends and sort of my family and that kind of thing. Not in like a huge way. It's not like I refused to speak to them, became like some kind of shut-in or something like that. You know, I still keep up to date with stuff and I still hung out with them occasionally, but I realized I wasn't giving those moments my 100% compared to this, which I felt like maybe I was giving this 150% and then only giving 50% to my personal life. And you know, in the past week, I've had one of the best days of my entire fucking life. In fact, I want to say it's the best day of my life, bar none, and I don't actually see how it's physically possible to surpass it in sheer quality, right? I won't go into details about it, but it made me sort of open my eyes and sort of realize that I can balance this stuff better. And as a result, I don't feel like I've become a more interesting person. I feel more whole as an individual. I feel less like a shell that creates, you know, these pretty pictures, and more like a fleshy fucking thing that, you know, walks around and has interests and talks to people about stuff. You know, even though I was doing that before, but now I believe that I'm still doing that. If that makes sense, that sounds a little bit all over the place, but I think you need experiences in life to create works of art. You know, no one that was raised in a vat is going to be able to create anything that's particularly intriguing unless it's about that theme of not knowing about the world, I suppose. But if you wanted to do stuff that's, you know, general and about the world, then you want to experience the world. You can't do, say, a relationship story if you've never been in a relationship, because it's just going to be shit. You can't do, I feel like you shouldn't really do like an army movie if you've not been in the army. That's why I like Platoon an awful lot more than I like Full Metal Jacket, because, you know, Oliver Stone actually fought in Vietnam, and so his portrayal feels a lot more genuine to me than Stanley Kubrick's. Not to say that Full Metal Jacket isn't a really good movie or anything like that. I rewatched it couple of months ago, and I realized it is actually a lot better than I thought it was. Before, I kind of used to think of it as 3 separate films that were kind of just chucked together, but now it felt a lot more holistic, and yeah, so that was all right. But yeah, in terms of you and what you're doing and what you're trying to get at with your works of art, if you're making a film, you're making your first film, or you're working on your final thesis or whatever, you know, and you're putting all of it into that, you're cramming everything in, and you're giving your all to that, but you're giving nothing to your personal life. And I don't just mean like hanging out with your friends and enjoying stuff like that. I mean just in general, your own life and your own interests outside of this filmmaking thing or this creativity fucking thing, right? Because it's not enough to base your entire personality on, is what I'm saying. You need other things, and you need to realize what those other things are, and at least be conscious of them to some degree. So, like, I don't know, recently I've realized stuff about myself that has been quite helpful in unlocking that not external, sort of separate from the film thing, this, you know, traits that I knew I had before, but now I'm sort of aware that I have them, and I can bring things up better. And when I'm in social interactions and stuff, I realize I'm a lot more capable of bringing things up, particularly since I started doing these, you know, videos as well. But in general, I feel like it's hard for us as creators and so on, filmmakers and musicians and all the kind of people that watch these videos. It's hard to make that separation because you're making stuff that is you. You're putting your true self out there, but at the same time, if that's all you're doing, then it's not really the true you. It's a manufactured version of you that you are putting out for the sake of approval. And when I realized that, it kind of made me, it changed the way that I approach the way that I do these videos. And I kind of like the change. And I feel like over the course of the next month or so, you'll start to see a change in the way that I talk and the way that I actually do the videos and like the thumbnails and stuff like that. Because we can't just be expected to be machines for art, because that's not what art is. It's not industrial. And when we have tried to industrialize it, we have created these behemoth, you know, works, like, you know, all the epics from the Hollywood thing. You know, you've got so many grand works and you know, that involve so many people coming together, so much work that, you know, multiple people must have put their entire life on the playing table, you know, 18, 19, 20 hours a day thinking about it. And you need to sometimes switch off and not think about your project. And I struggle with that a lot because I like my project. I like Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. I think it's fucking cool. And I think that people are going to enjoy it. And I'm really proud of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I think about it a lot. But if you think about it too much, you get kind of egotistical and in your own head about it. I was watching the video that I put out yesterday just to make sure that I didn't make a mistake that I thought I made, and it turned out I didn't make that mistake. And I realized that I put on another video of mine after that, and then I got 10 minutes in and I was like, okay, you need to turn this off before you literally fall in love with the sound of your own voice. Because the thing is, right, because I think in sentences, right, and I kind of think the way that I talk. So it's kind of like that. And when I listen to these videos, it's like I don't have to do the thinking because the past me is doing the thinking for me in the current. So I have to stop and unlock that, because after a few minutes it gets really uncomfortable. But that's the nature of, you know, talking to the camera and like having your own voice and that kind of thing. But I think with regards to you and your work and, you know, making a balance between your personal and your public life, you need to find something that interests you outside of something that can be commodified for the sake of expression in this public plaza, you know, full of people saying, hey guys, I made this, hey guys, I made that. And it's like, we're all making stuff, okay? We're all putting stuff out there, we're all bearing our heart and soul out, and, you know, it's not even cool anymore now that we're all doing it, you know. before, well, no, I don't really agree with that. The idea that now it's bad, but before it was okay. Either it was always okay or it's not okay, full stop, and so that by that logic, it's always okay. Yeah, just be careful with where how much effort you're putting into these things. Put a lot of effort in, but don't let it overtake you. Don't let it become you. You are not your art. You're not a conduit for your art, and you are not ever, ever going to change that. Because if you do, then you're going to lose yourself in the process. And I don't want that for you, and I think you watching this don't want that for yourself either. So, yeah, I think that's going to be all. Apologies for this being a bit of an echoey sort of video, but I like this shot. It's kind of the silhouette sort of thing. So I thought that was kind of fun. But if it's come out a bit echoey, it's come out a bit echoey, so fuck it. Yeah, take care. It stinks a piss in here as well. Anyway, I'm gonna head off. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Jonny Mozza, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about organisation and how at the moment I am not very organised absolutely at all whatsoever, as you might be able to tell. Hence the dressing gown, hence the coats over there, hence all this shit on the desk, which conveniently this chair is blocking, but it's a mess. It is a mess. And also why the wire is here, because I'm trying to charge my phone, but I have to record through my phone, so I have to kind of sit at this angle, which is kind of good because it means, because I'm in my dressing gown, I'm not going to do a fucking Basic Instinct on this. So why am I making this video? Well, in about 2 hours, I begin shooting day 6 of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. We're going back to Oscars, and we're going to do some shots that during day 2 we didn't end up getting because of various reasons. And at that time, I was a lot more organised because 1, the base plate on my camera worked. 2, my phone actually bothered to fucking charge. 3, I had a backlog. My computer worked. My computer fucking worked. I managed to get a new DVI cable. I've ordered a new DVI cable off Amazon. So I don't think I even have time to do it today. I'm just praying to God that that's the right thing. They look a bit weird. They look like they're at like a slight right angle, which I don't know if they're meant to be. I really fucking hope they are, because I'll tell you what, why is one of them a little bit lower down? Okay, don't get yourself worried about that, because I'll tell you what, the disorganization and the amount of disorganization that's going on is, I think, part and parcel of making a film as an individual, as a singular entity, because I don't have a crew, well, I do have a crew behind me, but I don't have an office or something like that where things need to continue and I could just hire some fucking engineers to come in and sort the stuff out. Everything that goes wrong, I have to fix personally. And doing all these videos, doing 2 videos a day, making a film, trying to do music at the same time, and then obviously having a personal life as well. It is all quite a lot, and I am kind of enjoying figuring out the balance, because I'm really enjoying being busy. I like being busy. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and it's fun. It's really enjoyable getting this done, and it's all about figuring out the balances. So I'd like to say to anyone out there who feels like you need to be organised to do any of this sort of stuff, you need to first get your life in order. No, you fucking don't. Just go out there and start making stuff. If your life's a wreck, if anything, that's a little bit more interesting. I remember I saw someone, they were doing YouTube and they were living out of a car, and they were making videos about their depression and stuff in the car and all this kind of thing. And they were doing pretty well out of it. They were getting 50, 100,000 views a video. I can't remember what the channel was called, but it was cool as well. They did some quite good videos, and they kind of made me relate to them and relate to my own experiences. Not that I've ever had clinical depression or anything, but I've been sad like everybody else has been sad. So you can kind of relate on that level, on the human experience sort of thing. So yeah, it was really good to see that. And they were completely disorganized. Can you imagine if they had waited until their life was in order to start making some videos about depression, which is kind of a thing that your life isn't in order. It feels like it's not in order. It feels like the pieces aren't in the right place sort of thing. It all feels a little bit wrong, because you're so maybe you should be happy but you're not, and you don't really understand why. So it's like a piece is missing, and it's you don't wait until you got all the pieces in place. You don't solve the conflict before you begin the story. So why should you wait until you're quote, ready to begin making videos or to begin making music or to begin creating art? Why should you wait until you've got all the paintbrushes and all the paints and all the various sizes of canvas before you can even start just doodling? Just make stuff, see where it goes, because you can make some really fascinating and fun stuff from being an outsider in that field. Look at like some of the most look at outsider art in general. What was the guy that he lived in a prison and his art was like collecting human teeth and making like art with them? Yeah, that was quite cool. There's so many things like that. And I'm not saying you have to go and be a serial killer and start stealing people's teeth, but you can just go out there and make something with no knowledge of that style or that genre or that idea. And if anything, that makes it a little bit more interesting because it's your personal voice and it's genuine, not you trying to chase the cliches or the trends of the genre that you're kind of going into. And you'll end up part of some genre or another because that's what ends up happening to everybody. But yeah, I feel like organization is quite overrated. You don't necessarily need it. Obviously, I would like if I was organized right now. That would be nice. That would be a good thing to have happen. It'd be nice if I didn't have to keep like bending over my phone, making sure my phone's actually charged. I'm also kind of worried that if this phone actually unbuzzes, that it's gonna fuck with the recording of the audio. So that's why I'm having to sit at this awkward angle and I have to keep looking over here and then I have to keep sort of looking here to make sure that's still recording. And then I sort of think back here and I'm thinking like, maybe I could get on the laptop and try and show you an example of something. So here's something I was just having a look at, right? It's a video from someone called They Should Make Larger Fruits, right? And it is literally just sort of this. So they're just sitting there talking, okay? And they're talking about this idea of where they play music and musical gigs and they ask people to come in like white t-shirts and they just make the merch for them on the spot with like spray paint and stuff. And that's just such a cool way of doing it. Can you imagine if they'd gone to all the effort of, setting up official merch and doing the official merch stand and then you go and buy a t-shirt or whatever? Isn't this such a much more interesting way of doing it? Much more easy and ready, available, unique to this person. Obviously, I'm sure other people have done it, but it feels unique to this person, even though other people do it. I mean, the same way that a Steven Spielberg film feels like a Steven Spielberg film, even though Robert Zemeckis exists, it can feel the same even if other people are doing something similar. It can feel like you and your true, genuine self, even if there are like-minded people out there. Because the fact that there are like-minded people out there is kind of the beauty of it. The fact that you're not alone in this space. You're not just shouting into a void. You're shouting to, hopefully a room full of other people. And as more people come and they come into your room and they start seeing what you're all about and they decide, oh yeah, you'd be pretty good. I'd like to stick around, So I'm going to just subscribe to They Should Make Larger Fruits and just say, just used a bit of this in a video and now I'm basically comment internet etiquette, but not really. So stop this. Not you, me. This video was great. That comment is not going to make any fucking sense to them. It doesn't really make any sense in the context of this video either. So you got so much cool stuff that goes on the YouTube space. There's so many little things that are coming out. And I think, especially in the 2020s, the internet has been going in a bit of a nice place, despite all the misery in the real world. Because the 2020s, as far as the real world is concerned, let's face it, COVID, all the other shit, Ukraine, Palestine, fun, conspiracy theories, fun stuff that I'm not getting into, but the world is going in a bit of a downward sort of trend. But I feel like in these certain little havens in the world, these little oasis, we find some really nice groups of people that are just making stuff for one another, and I find that really sweet. Like, look at this. I haven't really watched this one much, but I've sort of had it on in the background. Look at that, it's just like a conversation between two guys. This guy's done like a couple big movies, but he's also in touch with the indie sort of film scene. I feel like we need to do a video at some point, about the indie film scene, like as an A24 and like the super underground folk scene, because I don't want it to become a thing of like, there's faux indie and then there's real indie, because then, where's the distinction and why, it just becomes a bit like silly and a bit pretentious and exclusionary, and I don't want it to be anything like that. I feel like disorganization is kind of a part of the process of making a film, because a film is such a chaotic thing, and that's why on big sets they are so organized and so uniform, because you need so many people to get together to make something that can be considered organized art, because you need that many people to come together to, you know, sort out all the forms, to sort out the release forms, to sort out the locations, to sort out the actors, to sort out the extras, to sort out the props, to sort out the cinematography and the camera, what camera you're going to use, what microphone you're going to use, what fits the best for this sort of thing, what time of day we're going to do it. And we need to take into account the timeline of the day and the sunset and all that sort of stuff. And when it gets to sunset, what we're going to do for lighting, or like before that, what we're going to do for lighting. Oh yeah, we're going to do a fill here and a backlight there. Actually, no, we're going to do a side light here. And like, or, you know, all these various sort of topics, they all get so intense that you can either try and answer every question, or you can let the answers find themselves. And for this film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, I am letting the answers find themselves. And it's a lot of fun seeing what the answers actually are. You know, sometimes you have a look at something and it doesn't turn out quite how you expect it. It actually turns out a little bit better than you expect, because it's you at the end of the day and your expression, but it's like your voice found itself. It's like, you know, when you're sort of trying to make a point, but you kind of didn't realize what the point you were making was at the beginning, and as the conversation continues, you kind of come to a new conclusion, and like maybe you're talking to someone and they help change your mind and that kind of thing. So you can get an awful lot of you can get an awful lot of really positive things from the moment itself and where the moment can actually take you. And you can get an awful lot from the lack of organisation. Like, I'm sorry this is such a mess, but, you know, I feel like that was kind of part of the point that I was trying to make, that the organisation isn't the most important thing. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's not what you need to succeed. The biggest filmmakers and the biggest people that are around now, sure, now they're organised, but when they first started off, do you think they were organised? Do you think Quentin Tarantino was super organised when he was working on that film that he shot on a Super 35mm that he lost half of? What was it, four bedrooms in a something like that? I can't remember what it was. It was a comedy sort of thing. But he lost half the film, and so the film never ended up coming out. Is that the sign of an organised person? Not really. But is it also, like, is Quentin Tarantino not also fucking genius, whether you like him or dislike him? I'm not like his biggest fan or anything, but I can at least unequivocally say, like, he's good at what he fucking does, you know? And I think the lack of organisation might be a part of it, because look at all your biggest, most favourite fucking like filmmakers or musicians. A lot of their best stuff tends to come when they are small, before they blow up and before they get big. Like Oasis's best albums were just at the beginning when they were. No, I'm not saying they didn't blow up pretty quickly, but you know, their first couple before the fame and stuff really sunk in were some of their best works. And that's the same with basically any band or any like filmmaker or artist in general. Once they find that, once the audience finds them and they've got all the success and the fame and stuff, I'm not saying that it erodes at the artistic quality or anything, but it can certainly neuter or sterilize the process, because now it's a lot more synthetic rather than naturalistic or authentic, I would say, because, you know, now that you know how to do everything, it's not really as fun. Now that you've got all the answers and you're just sort of spelling the answers out, it's not particularly fun to see Quentin Tarantino at the top of his conversationless dialogue game, doing perfect dialogue across these 10-minute, essentially like the prog rock of films. Like it's like a 10-minute drum solo of filmmaking, like some of the scenes in, say, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where they just have the one with Brad Pitt and the kid. It's a really good scene, but it is basically the film equivalent of a drum solo, where it's a technical like ability, and the fact that this is someone who is so good at their craft and has been doing it for so long that they've really honed in that skill and made it work. You know, like maybe organization isn't the be all and end all. Maybe the odd job sort of cobbled together quality can be the draw. Maybe just trying stuff, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what works is the way to go. And you should always throw new shit at the wall. And yeah, that's why I wanted to make this video. So yeah, I hope that was of some sort of use to you. I hope you managed to get something out of this. Thank you all very much for watching this. Love you all. Yeah, have a good rest of the day. You know, maybe get your room a little bit cleaner than this, but you know, just don't worry so much about, you know, organisation, because You can spend all your time getting organised, but once you're organised, then what? Take care. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the circumstances of your life and how you can apply those circumstances to your creative works to create something quite interesting, because you might, if you're anything like me, when you're in a bit of a down sort of time, when you're a little bit down, depressed or whatever, you kind of look at other creators, you look at films that are done in America, you look at YouTubers that come out of some mad country you've never heard of, and you sort of sit there and think, God, their lives are so much more interesting than me. They've actually got something to get across. Meanwhile, I don't, just living in a suburb or whatever, you know? But at the end of the day, your circumstances are unique to you, and whatever your life is interesting. I'm not necessarily saying you need to vlog your life or get your life out exactly as it is, but with what your life is, there is some nugget of creativity or story within there that you can apply to something, whether that be a film or an album or a book or a piece of art. And if you really want to create, you have something to say, you just think that it's not interesting enough to say, but it is. It's way more interesting than you think it is, and it's way more satisfying to see the results of your own creative work from the circumstances you have, rather than trying to create new circumstances. Like this shot, for instance, I think looks pretty fucking good, right? And this is just like, I'm going to see a friend right now after this video. I'm going to go see a friend. He lives down there. I don't know if you can see that building. That building there, not that big building, but that building there, he lives around there, right? So I'm gonna go see him after that. That's why, like, these few videos I've done today, I've slowly been progressing my way over there. But the fog that's kind of out at the moment, the winter dew, you know, all of this sort of stuff, I think it gives you a nice little look into whatever my life is at the moment, my little world, my community, my thing, and that's neat, right? Because you have your own little world, your own little thing, and your own little community that you can get out there into the world if you so choose, if you have something that you want to say. But just don't get yourself down in a way of like, oh, I don't have anything to say, I just live in some random suburb. Say you live in, like, I don't know, Oklahoma City. I've dropped the pin on Google Maps and Street View and gone around. It looks like shit, it looks so boring there. And I sort of sat there and I was wandering around this town on Street View and I was thinking, how would I make anything interesting here? The lighting looks awful because it's a sunny, overcast day all the time. The whole place is completely flat. The buildings look boring as all hell. But you see creators over there, they're making something of it and they make that work within them. And sometimes you might see one of these boring suburbs and just see a boring suburb, or you might see this boring suburb and see something that's part of a story, because they have managed to craft a world out of their own real world, and they've managed to elevate their world from just being, you know, their little suburb in America to the location, the location of this movie or this thing, you know. Like, take the house that's in the original American Football album. It's just some random fucking house. It's got no story to it. It's not a particularly interesting house. Actually, it might have a story to it, I don't remember. But it's not a particularly interesting looking house, right? But they managed to turn it into a cultural icon within the math rock emo kind of community. And that's interesting to me. The fact that you can turn boring things into interesting things via your brain, your creativity, and your flow. So why not just get out there and start, okay? Because what your world is way more interesting than you might have any possible expectation of, right? Say you live in Greenland, right? You're one of like 56,000 people that live in Greenland. That's a very small section of the world, and you have access to it in a way that other people might not. So why not make use of that? If you live in Turkey, why not make some films that really showcase not necessarily Turkish culture or nature if you don't want to, but just showcasing the world as it is, you know, that kind of thing. So why not have some fun with it and just see what you can do. See what you can do with the world that you actually have to hand. You have a good day, yeah? And just make something of your own circumstances, because your own circumstances are far more interesting than you have any possible expectation of, because it's alien to other people. I was talking to someone who's an American, right? And I was gonna say like, oh, dibs this, and then I didn't say it because I sort of thought, hang on, he might not know what dibs is. He probably does, but he might not know what that means. Maybe that's a British thing. he might have a similar thing where he was about to say something that's unique to his little area of America, you know? And we all have those parts that are our own cultural touchstones that we can get out there into the world that you might feel haven't been explored. Like for instance, in my film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, I'm showcasing the West London music scene, which I feel like I haven't really seen much of in film or TV or anything to do with that. I feel like it's, you can go past, yeah. It's something that I haven't really seen explored, and I'd like to see it explored, so I'm exploring it. The same way that you might live in, I don't know, Shanghai, and you want to see some Shanghai sort of stuff going on. You know, maybe you go down the little side streets and there's that particular cafe that you like. Why not just, if you go to that cafe, sit outside, just set your phone down, maybe record a video, and see where it takes you, see what happens from there. Or, you know, you see some of these members of this community, this folk filmmaking or this folky sort of indie community of nobodies, right? And you see what they kind of do with their little worlds, right? So, I mean, Joel Haver is way, way different than, say, the Don't Tell Show, who is way, way different from Doom Productions, who is way, way different from, like, some random guy in Russia who made a film, who's way different from some random guy in Japan who made a film. We're all unique in regard to who we are and our worlds around us. And if we can combine those two to create some interesting works of art, then we should. Because why not? Why shouldn't you? Why? Because you have something to say. Why shouldn't you say it? Who says that you can't say it? Right? That's it really, that's the video. Just get out there, make stuff, please do. And send it to me. I'll try and watch as much of it as I can when I have the time. And yeah, make the most of your circumstances. Like right now, this camera isn't on a tripod. There was a woman that was just putting some stuff in a bin, right? This is actually sat on a bin, and it's a bin that has like this kind of curve. So when she was putting stuff in the bin, I reckon the camera was sort of up and down shaking. Like, you don't need crazy equipment, you don't need crazy resources or anything like that. You don't necessarily need a Canon C100 Super 35mm fucking cine camera like I've got. Even though it's not an expensive camera, you don't need it. You can get something that's way, way cheaper. You can get something that you can just use your phone, you can just do everything from your phone, you can do everything from the little tiny bits of equipment and resources you already have, because you already have something like this. You've got your own version of this. Is there not a place in your little local area that you like seeing, that you think looks good, that you want to showcase? Or something like maybe a street that you walk down, and you walk down that street and you kind of go, oh, fucking hell, that would make a really cool shot. And then eventually you will get that shot and you think, bloody hell, it is just as good as I imagined. So yeah, get out there and do stuff, because you won't regret it. You really, really won't regret it. You won't regret showcasing your world, because your world is unique to you. Even though you might live in the same area as another creator, your world and their world are ever so slightly different, even though you live in the same place, because who you are is who you are, and who they are is who they are. You might go to the swimming pool, they might go to the skate park. You might go to the gym, they might go to the pub. And it's fine, no matter who you are and where you go and what you do and what your world is and who your community is and the people and the friends that you make along the way, because it's all you. Everything about this is just about embracing yourself and just getting out there and making stuff. Because if you want to make pieces of art or creative works, then who is there to stop you? So thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good rest of the day. If you're working on anything at the moment, please let me know. Let me know how you have used your area, your locations and your community to your advantage to create something interesting. And yeah, take care everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. So yeah, I'm gonna walk down that way. But then I'm gonna have to come back. So I'm gonna just because, like, look how cool that looks. I'm gonna kind of walk backwards actually so I can see the camera. I hope the fog isn't sort of fogging up the lens. Bye. Bye. I feel like I'm gonna fall. What a way to end the video that would be. But now I've said it, I'm not going to.